What is going on, everybody? It is episode 298 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. I see that the chat is already gaslighting Brett today, telling him that he's going to do fine. Remember to be high energy, buddy. Well, he is going to be just fine.
I'm plenty high energy.
Thank you for the advice.
Yes.
And it's a Tuesday, so you already know who is in the studio.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brumlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Okay.
Doing good. Did you write anything fun today?
I have a lot of stuff flagged, but so far all I've talked about is this this Montana senator, Steve Daines. He got suspended from Twitter because he made his profile picture a picture of him and his wife holding up an antelope, like a Montana antelope they had shot.
Okay.
And Twitter said this is graphic imagery and you can't have that in your profile picture.
Like just after?
Reinstated.
Just after they shot it?
I guess. Like,
Okay.
you know how people take those,
It wasn't
like, in
mounted or anything.
you know, like in the field shots?
Yeah. Yep.
And then conservative men on Twitter were not a fan. They had this hashtag free Steve Daines, and it's just like, if you click through it, like all these hunting photos of people like, here's a moose and here's this other thing.
You ever seen the one where the guy takes the picture and it's a bunch of cucumbers in the shape of an animal? It's like
What?
it's like a meme.
Oh.
No?
I'm so confused.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later. It was funny. All right. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Disney propagandizing children, so it must be a day that ends in Y. Yes, the Disney cartoon Proud Family pushes what Breitbart called anti-white propaganda. There's a vast level of propaganda behind this one or two episodes covering Juneteenth that they did here. We're going to discuss that. We are also going to talk about the fact that Leonardo Dicaprio really he's that meme that says, like, it's like college girls, no matter how old you get, they stay the same age. He's that dude yeah, exactly. He's that dude. And look, there's a stink bug right there. There it
Wow,
goes.
savage.
We're going to cover that. We're going to cover Armie Hammer, who he has come out and said that when he was a teenager, when he was 13 years old, he was in fact abused. And some people are saying that he's using that as his excuse for the allegations against him regarding the abuse that
Or a
he's
distraction.
Yes, it's a distraction. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk, believe it or not, there's more to talk about with the Grammys. It's the thing that just seems like it will not go away. People will not shut up about the Grammys. Hannah Claire looks so happy about it. Do you not?
Oh, I love institutional award shows.
I
think that they are the pinnacle of taste and interest, and really, we should all pay attention to them all the time.
All the time. It's the best thing we can do. So we got that. We got a bunch of other stuff. But before we get into it, we have cringe of the day.
This one was like really cringe, like shockingly cringe.
Let's look at it. Okay, so this is a Costco, and this young lady just goes for it. So here we go. I love how not interested the people around her are.
Just pain.
No. It's the same song.
Let her cook. Let her cook.
The poor people in the background. But this isn't the thing. So there's a YouTuber that I happen to love named Enola Beddard. I've mentioned her several times on this podcast. And from several years ago, she had this video, which is literally the same dance, only in Hollywood, only at the Walk of Fame. I don't want to get copyrighted.
So is it the same girl?
I don't
in
know.
A Costco?
She's got the mask on.
She's wearing a mask.
I thought this is like the thing where TikTok songs have like a signature dance.
Yeah, a dance that goes with it. But it looks kind of like the same person. But look, she actually has like a real cameraman filming it with like actual depth of field, and it's in like an actual place where you should go to record interesting stuff, not just getting in trouble, not getting in the way of people at the grocery store.
Maybe filming yourself, filming cringe TikToks is the new way to go viral. So look, she had somebody else filming her mom filming her.
Yeah. She's got like 2 million followers on TikTok.
Which one? This one or the other girl?
Her. I don't know who the other girl is. It might be the same person, but I don't think so.
What if the other girl is kind of like making fun of this girl, like with her
Well, she's doing
city
it badly
background or whatever.
then. Like if that's the making fun of part,
like she's got a real photographer, but like you don't know what the other girl's video looks like until she posts it, if she ever does.
I don't know. So
influencers in the wild.
Yes, that's what it is, right? Have you ever seen the ones for the influencers where like a girl goes up to a guy and she hands him food, like the guy's not looking for food, and then she like films it to make it seem like he was homeless, or she's like, oh no, I dropped my purse in this garbage can, and the guy goes, huh? Oh, here, let me help you, and then she like walks away and puts her phone on him while he's like looking through the garbage can, and she just runs up to him and hands him food.
So
and it's like it's supposed to be like her like tricking people into thinking that she was helping a homeless guy.
That's
so weird.
Disgusting behavior.
Because you could just actually help the homeless, but instead,
well,
better to trick people.
If you don't get actual clout from it, did you help anyone at all? Right? That's the real question. So, all right. So now that we've officially done cringe of the day, I got actually one more thing that I want to cover. It's a little bit different.
I just have to say that thing is cringy to me because I hate dancing. Like, it's not that she's in a Costco or like being obsessed with social media. It's like the actual dance.
You cringe just as much as the
I cringe
polished
at the other
version.
girl, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's that it's the Costco. The Costco is the only saving grace for me.
She's like, she could have gotten a $1.50 hot dog right after she did that.
That was her in the middle of like the blow up of the panty where everyone is like getting their toilet paper and stockpiling.
Oh
my god, that would have been amazing.
Stockpiling all of the multi-purpose cleaners and Lysol spray.
It's like
just her completely
pandemic,
unbothered in the middle.
Using the pandemic to your advantage.
Yeah.
All right, guys. The Last of Us delivers its highest ratings yet for the series. So it went up series high of 7.5 million viewers across HBO and linear telecast, up 17% from the week before. So it is growing in size, and I think a season 2 is obviously inevitable. It is what it is. Mary is extremely bored by this.
We just have lowered our standards so much.
And I like it.
Like, you like it because everything on TV is trash now.
That is
this is just vaguely mediocre.
It's like slightly less
trash. It's tolerable, therefore you like it. That's why it annoys me.
All right. So just a heads up that the ratings are going up. Also, did you see this story about the AI-generated Seinfeld episode?
I dove into this. And I didn't even know this, but there's like a 24-hour live stream on Twitch of AI-generated Seinfeld episodes that is just constantly going.
Yeah.
And the software that they were using for this was like bugging out, like something was wrong with it. So they used a backup version of the software that didn't have the same protections. And it ended up becoming transphobic and homophobic.
It gave a transphobic Jerry Seinfeld monologue. The name of the character is not Jerry Seinfeld. His name's Feinberg in the show.
Yeah, Larry Feinberg.
Larry Feinberg.
Here's his transphobic rant. Yeah. He said, "There's like 50 people here and no one is laughing. Anyone have any suggestions? I'm thinking about doing a bit about how being transgender is actually a mental illness, or how all liberals are secretly gay and want to impose their will on everyone. Or something about how transgender people are ruining the fabric of society. But no one is laughing, so I'm going to stop. Thanks for coming out tonight. See you next time." Where'd everybody go? You know what's actually funny about this transcript is like his monologue is making fun of people who pigeonhole themselves into making jokes about trans people.
It's and like there's no room for nuance.
I'm actually surprised that an AI generated comedy bit was as nuanced as what that just read as.
Yeah.
Or unless I'm giving it too much credit.
You think so? I think that maybe it's just less. It is less encumbered. It's less encumbered by the rules that Hollywood has, so it was allowed to be more nuanced than Hollywood would allow something to be when it's produced.
I don't know how an AI is able to make something that genuinely funny because it's Larry Feinberg who is the butt of the joke. Yeah. No one is laughing at his jokes about gay and trans people.
Do you think that one day we're just gonna have AI writing all the media?
Apparently, it's capable.
I mean, BuzzFeed has already taken on AI to write a bunch of articles.
I'm
like staunchly anti-AI. I don't think that we should be encouraging it. I don't think that like making it accessible. What was that? Where you put the pictures in and it generates a picture of you. Yeah. I think we're introducing AI as sort of a form of entertainment, which is ultimately extremely dangerous. People are going to get used to it. They're not going to know how to use it. It's going to get a lot of information it probably shouldn't have. But again, I'm a technophobe. I don't trust AI. I don't understand what the benefit of this would be.
Yeah.
A technophobe.
I
I like that version of Luddite.
Look, for me, this is one of those things where when I see it, I laugh because
Luddite
it
implies I
probably
can't
is,
use technology.
it
And that's
probably
not really
is.
like what I'm getting at.
It probably is going to end up writing better stories than a lot of the stuff in Hollywood because it wouldn't be adhering to the same parameters.
I
as
don't
a
know
lot of
about
the,
better.
Oh, I mean, than some of the stuff coming out of Hollywood. Absolutely.
I don't.
What is Hollywood? What is Hollywood making right now
AI
that makes you
generated
think that-
entertainment produced Elsa Gate.
I'm just
So-
saying. I'm just saying that Hollywood is already making soulless entertainment. Why not let actual soulless people make the entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it already feels like it's AI generated at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, this
It's
is
so
like-
formulaic and
When you watch most of the stuff that comes out right now, it's all paint by numbers, anyways. Man, the stink bugs are just sorry. We're good.
yeah.
So,
and so many
just,
characters are reduced down to tropes that can be repeated over and over again. Script writing is the lowest quality it's ever been.
also part of being like part of these huge companies that like, you know, you have certain limitations on the art. Like all the things that I love were made by people before they got bought out by big companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been watching old episodes of Mortal Kombat Conquest, which is one of the worst, best shows of all time. It's so bad, it's good. But I think back to like Mortal Kombat in its infancy, and it was edgy at the time because it wasn't owned by a major studio, right? Or any form of art like that. Like it gets worse as more people get their hands on it. Does that make sense? Like the more hands that something has to go through to be made, the harder it is to feel authentic. Yes? No?
Yeah, like if there is a committee writing on a
Yeah.
TV show, then there are so many voices that and opinions that go into a character that they end up being the amalgamation of all those people instead
Which is not
of
realistic.
a unique individual.
Yeah, which is interesting because they frame that in Hollywood as a good thing. Like, well, if more people are involved in the writing of this character, then more perspectives will be included. Therefore, it must be more true to life. But that's not really how we are as people. You're an individual who's, you know, you're framing everything that happens to you, not a bunch of people framing something that happens to somebody that's not real.
It's like that insane article we came across that was saying Wednesday needs to have more black writers
Yeah.
in their writer's room, or else they're going to continue writing one-dimensional black characters. Like, and then they listed the black characters they were referring to, who, if you had watched the show and like actually given it a chance, had an incredible amount of nuance that I even didn't expect from the state of Hollywood as it is today.
Yep.
But they're going to put it on these characters that they're one-dimensional unfairly because they're looking for something to complain about.
Yep. Critical theory. Critical theory. All right, guys, we're moving on. So we got okay. Actually, no.
What about Post Malone?
Oh yes,
You wanted to talk about that. I
had
also
the-
think it's stupid.
Yeah, I had this at the end before. All right, yeah. So basically he's like, here's him on stage, and people like thought he was on drugs because he's like thinner now.
Because for once he doesn't have a beer belly.
Yeah.
And he's not drunk or high while performing, which has
Doesn't
been a
that-
repeated problem for him.
Fatherhood's been good for Post Malone.
yeah,
Right?
like, well, also doesn't that say something about America where when you're not fat, they're like, is something wrong?
Well, I love that when you lose weight, there has to be a bad reason
Yeah.
for it. But if you gain weight, then there can't possibly be a bad personal reason that that's happening.
Well, no, because then it's a medical condition of some sort that happened rather than just, you know, something you did to yourself, right?
I don't know. I don't
He's
think
looking-
he should
he's
be
looking
getting
good. He's looking trim.
backlash for this. And it's literally the exact opposite of his other performances where he's been known to get belligerently drunk while on stage.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of was that one where he went out and he was like slurring really,
Yeah.
really badly because he was like, and they showed him behind the, you know, off stage.
Like, he's done that for
clearly.
many
Yeah,
years.
That's his thing.
And now, I mean, he's holding up a red Solo cup in this picture, so I don't know how sober he's getting during his performances, but there must be some kind of positive lifestyle change going on here, and maybe it is fatherhood.
I'm
that-
loving his beard too.
Yeah.
I'm
He had when his girlfriend had their baby. I don't know if they're married or anything yet, but she talked about how they were going to raise the baby in Utah and they were going to live out there. Like being away from Hollywood was a positive choice for him. I think his father even commented like, "This is the right choice." I think that it's easy. You know, they say a lot of people when they go to college gain a bunch of weight because your metabolism's dropping off. If you're involved in high school sports, you're probably not
freshman
doing them.
15.
Right. There's a lot of lifestyle changes, and so essentially what we're probably seeing is the same thing, right? If he's in a more outdoorsy state, if he has a kid, if he's not in an environment where he has to go out. I mean, people don't think about it, but alcohol and binge drinking is the consumption of a huge number of calories. So it's not surprising that he would be heavy.
Yeah, I don't
already.
think people realize how many calories are in. Like a lot of my friends that when they quit drinking lost, like just immediately started losing weight. Like didn't even really change their diet, but just cutting out the alcohol helped tremendously. So good for him. And you know,
He's always been kind of based.
Yeah,
He's very,
right.
very pro-gun.
Yes, it
He
made.
has a compound.
Is that in Utah? I thought that was in like in Nevada or something. Am I misunderstanding that?
I
There are a
thought
lot
it
of
was
different-
Arizona.
Utah. I mean, I thought it was Utah, but he basically left California for one of those states that's next to California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to get started, Mary?
I'm ready.
Hannah
I
Claire.
think.
Are you ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right.
do it.
All right. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah. This meant a lot to me because I watched The Proud Family. Did you, Hannah Claire?
Yeah, we talked about this on IRL last night.
Yeah. They ran originally from 2001 to 2005, which is a much different time in our culture.
Very
And
different time.
along with That's So Raven and some other shows, it was just a normal show that portrayed a normal black family just existing, and it was funny, it was lighthearted.
Can't do that anymore.
I enjoyed that and a lot of different shows, animated shows on Disney at the time. And now they've rebooted it as of last year, calling
you.
it The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. And as soon as they reboot something, you know it's a bad sign
Oh yeah.
because they can't come up with a new idea. But this time around, they've completely bastardized the show and turned it essentially into Identity Politics 101 for babies who never were introduced to the first show in the first place. And it's exemplified in this one new episode where people have been sharing clips of this episode on Twitter a lot with the hashtag boycott Disney. And essentially it's showing the main characters learning about the history of Juneteenth. And they learned that, you know, the terrifying truth is that Black Americans did not actually gain their freedoms after the Emancipation Proclamation. They found out the terrifying truth that Abraham Lincoln did not want slaves to be free, and they learned that their own town was founded by a slave owner, and they begin protesting.
And they eventually get the town named. It was Smithville, and it gets changed.
Yes, so it's after this guy, I think Christian A. or H. Smith. I couldn't make it out in the clip, but so we can't show these clips because of copyright. Basically, one of them has these characters who are aged about like 13, 14, 15, peacefully protesting by a monument of this slave owner, protesting to get it taken down. And then riot police show up with shields to arrest them. And one of the characters' dads is on the other side of the riot police saying, they're going to arrest our babies. And he points to, I think they're like mayor or some white man who is present. And he says, you have to stop them. Use your white privilege for good.
Yep.
And then in another clip, they're talking to one of their school teachers about the history of Juneteenth,
That's
unveiling
his
all
husband.
of these.
Like this is it says that Maya's black
it?
father is seen yelling at his white husband to do something with your white
Oh,
privilege.
yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
his same-sex partner that
Yeah.
he's yelling at to use his white privilege.
Look,
to,
I'm the one who's out here all the time kind
Jeez.
of playing devil's advocate. Like, look, you know, I mean, I see it. I see the propaganda. But then, like, stuff like this, and I'm like, you guys make it really
Yeah.
hard for me to take the middle ground here.
And then the worst clip of all is them performing this, like, slam poetry kind of beatnik style monologue where they repeat the line, I think it was like, this country is built on slavery and slaves built
this country.
built this country.
Yep.
So they go through all of this rewritten history together. And then at the end, all of the adults in the room roar in applause for their historical inaccuracies.
What's weird to me is like 20 years ago, I guess that's longer than that now. It's like that's how long I've been alive. Like I say 20 years ago, kind of like when people are like, oh, just remember that 1990 is closer now than when people do the thing.
Feel
like,
old
yeah,
yet?
feel old yet. But like, I remember a time when people looked down on edutainment. Like even accurate edutainment was looked down on as like secondary, as like second class art, right? Now, in a way, like kids didn't clamor for to be educated with their art. They clamored for good stories, and it's like they don't even want to give you that option anymore. They don't even want to give you the option of just presenting the family, going through some unique experience to them that has nothing to do with race, gender, sexuality, or something that makes you hate this country. It also reminded me that last week I was looking. They put up the trailer initially for the Hulu 1619 Project documentary.
Yes.
Right? And I'm just curious, right? It's the only thing on the Hulu Twitter with the comments turned off. The only one, because they understand that people push back against stuff like this. And it makes me wonder, like, I kind of complain a lot because I'm like, look, they made a lot of progress in society. Me, who, like, you were mentioned earlier that, like, what Elijah Schaefer posted something about saying that he feels truly politically homeless. And somebody like me who does feel that way most of the time, who grew up grew up liberal and still holds many liberal ideals, looks at this stuff and thinks, like, you gained so much traction for decade after decade by just making it subtle. And they just, I don't know if they just forgot how to do that, if 2016 made it impossible for them to focus on doing that again, or what it is, but I don't know if they're actually going to achieve what they're trying to achieve, because you're losing people.
I think all they saw with this is that it was an animated series that featured a black family, and they didn't think about what it was before. I don't know about you, but one of my vivid memories from watching the show is seeing a Muslim family. She does like an exchange where she stays with a Muslim family and the daughter stays with her, and they ask her to fast, and she wears a hijab to school, and it sort of talks about the nuances of like taking on different culture and things like that. It was the first time I think I can remember as a kid seeing a Muslim character definitely in an animated show, if not on TV, although I didn't watch a lot of TV growing up. I think that they saw this as an opportunity to co-opt a black family for what modern Hollywood believes the black family should be doing with their time. Yeah. And I don't know if that is actually fair, and I don't know if that doesn't do anything more than try to convince the viewers of today that this kind of activism is cool and trendy and, something you're supposed to be doing.
Well, what is the end result for this, the natural consequence when a child is watching this who is not capable of seeing the nuance or the context, or hasn't been taught history yet,
which is by design,
or hasn't been taught by their parents? They're going to believe exactly what they're told. And if it's a white child, they're going to feel self-hatred, and that, I believe that is the desired result.
Right. I mean, look at that scene where they're doing their like spoken word or whatever. Who's holding the sign that says America hasn't atoned yet? The white kid, the one white friend in that group. I mean, it's obvious that this is an anti-white movement, and on top of that, it's to make it seem like at any age. I mean, you said these girls are like 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever. I thought they were like 10 or 11. And that's how I remember the show being. I don't really know.
Maybe they aged them up for the
Maybe.
reboot.
I have no idea. But ultimately, they want you to know that beginning in middle school, high school, if not earlier, you are supposed to be actively involved in this. This is the cool thing to be doing. This is what your responsibility is, regardless of your race, is to push back against anything, any of the foundational values of America, or anything that comes up. I mean, we talked about this a little bit on IRL last night, but presenting a history, I think we should present our history as with as much detail and nuance as we can. But the idea that you would take down monuments and whatever else just tells us that they are not willing to talk about history. And if you can't talk about your history, how are you supposed to not repeat it, right?
Well, it was really eye-opening that a lot of these responses were, oh, why are you afraid of kids learning history? Why is it that you think history is anti-white? That's awfully telling.
No, it's why are you afraid of kids learning history?
Right.
I mean, this idea they say in here that Abraham Lincoln actually didn't free the slave, that's a new concept. I mean, people push the narrative that Abraham Lincoln was the great emancipator and he freed the slaves all the way through the 1990s, early 2000s, and now we have come to a conclusion that he hasn't, because there's evidence that he didn't believe that. He wrote to this journalist about 6 months, or less than a year before the Emancipation Proclamation, saying, if I could have kept the Union together by freeing all of the slaves, I would have done it. If I could have done it by freeing no slaves, I would have done it. If I could have kept the Union together by freeing half and keeping the other half enslaved, I would have done that too. His objection, his interest wasn't in slavery, it was in keeping the Union intact.
Yeah.
And I
So
think
it's a
my
narrative.
question
It's
is-
a narrative that got spun.
Why
it's
do
a narrative
we?
completely, and they decided that we had to hold him up as having done the right thing, when actually that was, in fact, he was one of the presidents who advocated for, we had to go through a Reconstructionist era. He was one of the people who advocated for, like, maybe we should set up communities in Africa and send the descendants of slaves and slaves to Africa to be reintegrated back into communities. Of course, that's kind of hard. You don't know where they're from in Africa. I accept that it's complicated there, but like, we just completely washed that of Abraham Lincoln. We don't look at our history at all and think about what it meant to have slavery and what it meant to disassemble slavery. In fact, we are still to this day just saying it's one racial group's fault and they should pay for it.
Yeah.
My question here is, all of those historical facts aside, why is it any of Disney's business to be the party that teaches the next generation about our nation's history? It's simply not their place, and it's a major overreach into the home that is entirely inappropriate, and it should be pushed back on.
They see it as the same thing that they were doing in all the after-school specials, saying, like, you shouldn't bully people and you should be nice to people.
Even that was wrong, in my opinion.
All of these morals that they felt like they could present, like, they're a TV show and they want to talk to your children, but they're sending a good message. They're teaching kids good values. And after decades and decades of it being sort of social inter-school kind of stuff, now they are moving on to this idea that actually, to be a good person, you have to be deeply involved in social justice causes.
Because the people that are now making the decisions there are activists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember, like, the way that messaging was done with Disney back when I was watching it in the 2000s. I found it confusing even that they kept harping on the individualist, like that hyper individualist, be yourself no matter what narrative, and people should accept you no matter what narrative.
Yeah.
And of course, like the anti-bullying propaganda,
Shouldn't the
which I
idea-
disagree with.
Shouldn't
still.
the idea be not that everyone should accept you no matter who you are? It's that you should be okay even if with yourself, even if nobody accepts you.
Yeah, and that was a message that was never really authentically presented in entertainment by Disney, and it's just snowballed to the point where we've gotten to this type of content. And then further, I saw clips from the show where they it was basically like an autism PSA, because the main character's younger brother BB was diagnosed with autism in the show, and they show him being like integrated into his like preschool or kindergarten class after getting this diagnosis. They show his father initially reacting negatively to the diagnosis, and all of this stuff entirely unrelated from like actual storytelling that I think any kids would be genuinely interested in. This is a PSA that is made for adults to circulate on social media and pat themselves on the back for. And that's all of the reception I saw about it. No one was like, my kid watched this and they found it so insightful that they said this about their classmate who also has autism. They like, nothing is actually coming to fruition in the real world because kids are watching these scenes. This is about clapter from adults. Like, I saw all of these tweets that were saying like, wow, it showed that this character on the autism spectrum is included in the family, and I'm so touched by what they included in the show, and they did such a beautiful job, and they showed all of these reactions from the family, and they needed to address serious issues like this. But were any of the kids watching interested in this?
Do you think this actually reaches a youth audience?
I don't think so. Like, I certainly hope there aren't numbers watching a show like this, especially since I doubt it's organic interest in the first place, given that it's a reboot of something that was popular for a different generation.
I think the reality is, yes, it does reach a youth audience. I don't know what effect it has on a youth audience. I mean, remember that, like, I'm watching the show thinking, oh, I remember these characters, and I remember enjoying the show, and I remember it being
So our
interesting.
opinion's already colored by...
But I didn't grow up with the amount of SJW programming in my animated TV series as kids today have, right? Like, it was definitely increasing when I was a kid, but it wasn't to the level. And so to some extent, like...
Felt non-existent.
We're all like, how could they do this? Because these are familiar characters.
Yeah.
But I bet there are 12 other shows that do similar things. I mean, I bet the youth of today is more used to it than we are, and in some ways I wonder if that makes them numb to it.
Do you remember
the ones
that's what I'm
who
saying.
were going to react positively to it already did, and the ones that are like, yeah, I don't care, are already tuning it out.
Do you remember Kim Possible? And she has this male sidekick, Ron Stoppable, who is constantly the one making all of the blunders on their adventures together.
Thank you.
Which she has to correct. She is the smart, capable, competent one of their duo. And at the same time, he constantly is pining after her romantically.
Yeah.
And I mean, he gets her in the end, but the whole point is that he is lesser than her,
Of course.
simply for being male. And that was something that was just mainstream on like the animated shows I was watching on Disney Channel. This has been a trickle down for so long from Disney. And weirdly enough, these shows that had more subtle propaganda, they were mostly made by a lot of the same people that are in charge today for all of these Disney Plus shows. Like I looked into Bruce Smith, who is in charge of the animation for Proud Family's reboot. And he actually worked on Tarzan. He worked on the original Proud Family, obviously. He worked on Emperor's New Groove, Princess and the Frog, Winnie the Pooh, and I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit as well.
Gosh, it's old.
All of this old content that we like remember so fondly and we love so much because it isn't about messaging. It's just heartfelt, wholesome entertainment. It's made by the same person that is peddling the propaganda today. I don't understand why.
I think there's a reason for that. I think that for the people that are creating it, yes, the activist who's writing it and the activist producer that's, pushing for it to get made, they see it that way. The creatives that are actually doing the designing and everything, I think that there's a certain desensitization when you are creating something, right? Like, especially if it's not your creation. If you're just part of it, he's not seeing the propaganda. He's saying, look at this great bit of art I did here. Look at this great, look at this great cut in this scene here. I think that for certain people at the creative level, if they're not emotionally attached to the artwork, they can detach in a way that we can't because we're emotionally like okay, I've edited videos for years, right? The idea is like if you edit a video, like a skating video to a song, you never want to hear that song again by the time you're done because you've heard it for like literally for hours as you're cutting up stuff around it and you're cutting around the song. Like you're sick of it. It's just a tool at that point. And I think for a lot of the people that are creating stuff, it's just a job. Like they're not looking, first of all, they're not looking at it through the same lens we're looking at as people that are more politically aware, I would assume are more politically aware. I think that they have a way of detaching from it that we don't.
I don't know. They also pretend to be the people making the magic of this kid's content.
That's propaganda too.
But they're peddling the propaganda that they are emotionally attached to the content, and therefore
the ones who get it greenlit, yeah, absolutely. But the ones who are actually making it, like the artists, the storyboard artists, the people drawing things, the people actually doing the digital animating, I don't know if they care. I think it's just a job.
For a series like this, a reboot of an established TV show where you are mimicking the artwork that came before you.
Yeah.
The only way to feel like you are creating something new is to instill your morals into it.
And that's a big problem.
And to shape the characters. And that's how you get ownership. I mean, I wonder if you weren't allowed to do reboots, right?
Yeah.
And they had to draw original art and they had to come up with original characters and they had to do all kinds of things, it would probably still have these values.
Yeah.
But would it have it to this extent? Would we have this insistence, right? Because the only way that they can differentiate their version of the Proud Family from a previous version is to create this modernized moral code.
And then I'm contrasting all of this moralizing with their other decisions, like Disney's other decisions that show how inhuman they really are as a mega corporation, as you would expect them to be. For instance, like filming Mulan next to Uyghur labor camps.
Yeah.
And recently, they dropped a Simpsons episode
in
Hong Kong because it made a joke, including a reference to forced labor camps in China, where child laborers make smartphones.
Yep.
And Disney has declined to comment on the situation.
Funny how that works, right?
Funny how your morals only matter when you're indoctrinating Western children, but if it's a faux pas against China, then it's a different story. Then you have to appease them and their values.
Yep.
Like, that just shows how inhuman and unprincipled they really are. But when it comes to indoctrinating our children, then they'll be militant about their values.
With all this stuff, whether it's this, whether it's the Grammys, I just keep coming back to the idea that, look, we need to focus on, they're going to keep making what they're going to make. We need to either make a parallel economy where you're making your own stuff where you can offer a good alternative. And there are plenty of, new artists and things that are doing that now, but also be wary of what your kids are watching, what you're allowing them to view on their tablet. And that's really all you can do when companies get to this size and they've just pushed this far into the economy on every level.
And try to give your kids an alternative, right?
Exactly.
Like, instead of setting up with tablets, set them up with crayons. I know it's hard for a lot of parents.
Absolutely.
You can be exhausted and really want something that'll capture their attention, but ultimately, like, decreasing dependence on visual entertainment
I agree.
takes away power from Disney and other corporations like it.
And it makes me sad because so much of this stuff meant so much to me when I was growing up. And then to see what it's become is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So,
Let's go to Super
let's
Chats.
do it.
Potatoes for Seamus said, man, Hannah Claire and T Swift on tour together.
Is that going
Is
to
this
happen?
real?
Oh yeah, we talk about it all the time, but I'm such a good vocalist that she doesn't want to be upstage.
Did you see the clip, the replayed clip of her, like when Jill Biden came out on stage and she just looked like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world but at the Grammys?
I didn't see that, but
No.
that's funny.
It's really funny.
What is this?
Like Jill Biden's on stage, she's like, ugh.
Wait, Jill Biden was there?
Jill Biden presented, yeah.
Of course. Where else would
What?
Jill Biden be?
Where else would she be? Yeah.
Oh my
And she was
gosh.
like backlit.
Doctor,
in the
by
red.
the way. She's
Yeah,
a
they did like
doctor.
his and hers, who did it better, her or Joe, and they did the
Their
thing.
red
that's
backlit
horrible.
evil villain moment.
Yep.
Sketch Therapy
I'm in my
said-
villain era, says Jill Biden.
Sketch Therapy said, Furious, Hannah, it's about family. Give us an update.
Any update?
I don't have an update this week.
That's okay.
I'll watch it this weekend and I'll come back. Maybe I'll do 2 in a row again.
All right.
Okay.
Marco said, random, have you ever been to a Buc-ee's? Buc-ee's got brisket sandwiches.
Buc-ee's the best.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
I
super
see
cool.
more memes about Buc-ee's than I do actually talk to people who've been there.
It's like a stop and shop where you can get everything.
It's a gas station and it has like all kinds of things. I mean, they're known for how like clean and nice their bathrooms are, but they also have like tons of coffees, local roasted products. Like it's sort of a cultural. I only have been to ones in Texas.
Okay. I've had their like Buc-ee's snacks. The little, what are they? Like
we've
candy,
yeah, I've
nuts,
seen them
and
here.
stuff like
There's
that.
tons of stuff like. I mean, and they're enormous too.
Yeah. RS Degger Chaff said, we need an AI show so the Twitter bots feel represented.
That'd be cool.
No, it would not be cool.
Are you like, okay, I was watching an interesting video recently where somebody was just talking, Zach was talking about, Zach from Comics Fan was talking about, like, look, we live in an age where everyone's afraid. Like, everyone's afraid to voice their opinions because they're going to get dunked on by other people. Everyone's afraid of making the art they want to make because they're going to be told the art is, you can't make that anymore, or this is, you're pandering to this group, you're pandering to this group, because you can't even like new technology because, like, when AI art started coming out in comics artists didn't stop to be like, look, maybe this is something we could implement, maybe this is something we'd look at. You're just automatically afraid of it right away. Just like,
well, I find it telling that when AI art came onto the scene, the first things that people wanted it to replace were the most lowbrow forms of entertainment, such as porn.
And well, I mean, it's been going on in comics when they talk about it. They said, look, the truly gifted artists will never be out of work. It's the ones who have the replaceable job. You know, the guy who's just who does basic lines and just isn't highly. If anything, it's because it becomes a litmus test for like how much do you actually matter.
My take
to
is
your
like,
business.
if you're human, you're not replaceable, no matter what you're doing.
But you are though. That's what AI is doing.
But they're saying that your utilitarian purpose in society being replaced means you are being replaced as a person.
If you can't work, it becomes increasingly difficult to exist in society. I mean, I don't think
And
It
then
makes
Cash-
your
don't
life
think
more difficult,
AI
but I
is
think
equivalent to humans. I mean, AI can't understand morality. There's an emotional component.
Go watch Person of Interest, ladies
But
and
in
gentlemen.
terms of labor, like, it becomes very easy to be replaced as a human.
like in cashiers everywhere, like first time.
I'm just saying, like, your labor being replaced doesn't mean that you, as a person with dignity are being replaced.
No, but it makes your
you
life
know?
harder.
Sure, but it makes it very
Yeah.
hard to exist.
All right.
Shimmy Shelley, I can't read that.
Okay.
Caper2X said, Hannah Claire, are you a Luddite? How dare you?
Not a Luddite. I'm
How
a
dare you.
technophobe. I avoid and don't like technology.
Rhaegar Targaryen said, I'm a warrior, an assassin. I don't dance. Gamora or Hannah Claire?
You could, that could be you. You could be Gamora.
Caper2X
man.
said, many considered beer liquid bread.
Yeah, basically. See, I need to stop eating bread. I love bread, and I need to stop it.
Why would you stop eating bread if you love it?
Like at least I need to stop eating it before the show. It always makes me sluggish, and like my brain is just like yesterday was one of the worst days I've had as far as like my brain just didn't want to work yesterday. Like literally, I was like it was like processing. Nope, nothing there. Like that's how I felt yesterday.
Dial-up
Yeah,
tones.
it was like yeah, it was like that the whole day yesterday.
Sir Rank Productions said, shout out fellow double first namer Hannah Claire for pronouncing my name right on Cast Castle commentary.
Ah,
Oh, cool.
all right.
Wonder
Let's
what his
hold.
double name is.
Let's hold off on the rest and we will come back. Before we move on, guys, could you please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already? It helps us greatly in the algorithm. All right. I put a poll up and we're gonna look in that now. But so Leonardo DiCaprio is back in the news because he is what now? He's 48, right?
He is 48.
Yep. And he is dating a 19-year-old
How
woman.
else does he get in the headlines anymore if it's not about him dating young chicks or him being a climate activist?
Apparently just that.
Does he do anything of note anymore?
He's still acting. I put a poll up. I said, would you let your daughter date Leonardo
see
DiCaprio? And
Where
an
are we at right
overwhelming amount of 84% say nope, no dice. There are nobody, like 84% of 426 votes say they are not letting Leonardo DiCaprio anywhere near their daughter. So, fair play to
Probably
them,
smart.
right?
What did you vote, Brett?
I did not vote.
You did not
I
vote?
did not vote, but I would vote no. I mean,
Yeah.
just because it just seems like a huge problem.
Well,
Right.
Sometimes I feel like men who reach a certain age and have never been married and aren't in a long-term relationship, like that just should tell you there are red flags there. Even if
Yeah.
you can't see them.
he was recently dating Victoria Lamis, who is a model. She's 23.
I thought she was dating Bella Hadid, or not Bella.
No, they were just like
He switches. He has a roster. Okay, it's constantly switching.
No
so
one
when
thinks
he
this is
was
a red
dating
flag?
Victoria Lamis, her own father came out to the press and said, it looks like it's not permanent, but she's really smitten with him, and I'm just telling her she shouldn't get too attached because she's very young, and
you were not a fan of that.
I thought that was a really gross comment. The way he worded it, especially, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but it was like he completely resigned himself to knowing that Leonardo DiCaprio has just like taken up his own daughter as a hobby for the next month or two, and I think that's gross.
I was also I'm
You
kind
think it's
of
gross that he commented on it, or that Leonardo
his comments
DiCaprio's
on
doing
it were gross. Like he didn't seem to have any valuable advice for his daughter.
I mean, probably because there's nothing he can do about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, if he
Pushing her
disapproved,
farther
would he
away
not
wouldn't
say
help.
so? I don't even know why he spoke to the press in the first place. But
Maybe
anyway,
no comment would have been the better option.
now Leonardo DiCaprio has been pictured with a 19-year-old model named Eden Polani.
Yep, she's an Israeli model.
Yes, so that's a pretty big age gap, and now they're
How
being
old is he?
compared to. He's 48. Now they're being compared to the
Pedro
age gap
Pascal
between
and
Pedro
Bella
Pascal
Ramsey.
and Bella Ramsey from The Last of Us. They have an even narrower age gap than Leonardo DiCaprio and Eden Polani. Pretty crazy, given that those two characters are supposed to have a father-daughter relationship.
Well, he's literally old enough to be her dad.
And Bella
Like-
Ramsey is older than Eden Polani.
Yeah.
Now, Eden Polani does not look her age.
No, she
looks
doesn't.
like she could be like in her mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a weird conflict, right? Because she's going to act like a teenager but look like an adult.
It's also funny too because look, we found like kind of articles that push back against this on both directions. So I looked at the insider data from the old OkCupid data study where they said that women actually date, like they prefer men that are closer to their own age, but men as they get older, they would
younger.
prefer younger, but they don't message women that are younger. Basically, it says like men in their 30s would prefer women in their 20s, but they don't message women.
Yeah,
in
and
their
I think
20s.
that shows Leonardo DiCaprio is dating a subset of women who are outliers from the rest. And it doesn't really say much about age gap relationships. It says something about Hollywood relationships.
Yeah.
That these models and actresses that are dating him, they gain something from dating him even for a short period of time because they get notoriety, they get in the paparazzi, they get in the headlines, their name is getting out there.
It's a career move,
Yeah.
if
It's a
anything.
great career move.
It's impossible for me not to compare it to Hugh Hefner's and the Playboy Bunnies. Like, he would have these girlfriends, and they would be his girlfriend for long enough to get a centerfold, and then they would break up with him. And
So who's using who?
right? And this was a regular thing to the point where he then like made a rule that he wouldn't have his girlfriends be centerfold models anymore.
But now that he's passed, now it's pushed back on as if he was evil and that they weren't getting anything out of it. That they were like, oh, I showed up at the Playboy Mansion one day and it's
Thank you. It's very disturbing.
Have you ever seen Jerry Maguire?
no,
No?
I don't think I've seen a movie ever.
No, not. It's a Tom Cruise movie, so apparently only I've seen it.
That guy's made of cardboard.
Yes. But like, like now all the stuff that comes out about Hugh Hefner, and I'm sure like horrible stuff happened, but they pretend there's a rewriting of history where those women didn't also get something out of those relationships, even though we know that that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Some
Right?
people are theorizing that Leonardo DiCaprio is actually just still like living the trauma of filming Titanic.
He's
so
still on
thinks-
that board.
He like sees himself as the same age he was when he filmed it, and he now is dating like a fake redhead who looks like Kate Winslet at the time.
Every day, he starts dating them. He makes them role play getting on the board in the water.
He just
and, like,
wishes he had gotten on that freaking door. It
Yeah.
was big
I
enough.
think part of it is he probably doesn't want to get older and be responsible. Like, maybe he
yeah.
doesn't want to get married. Maybe he doesn't want kids. That's his prerogative. It would be hard for me after all of this time, because this has been going on for like 2 decades now. Was it Taylor Swift who, I don't think she's talking about Leonardo DiCaprio, but she has this song lyric where like,
just about John Mayer, right?
I always mess up the punchline, but I get older, but all your dates stay the same age. Like,
Yep.
he's always dating these girls in this like very narrow 5-year window. I think that it would be impossible at this point for him not to be aware, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a conversation that happens early on. Like, this is not long term. You're gonna date for a while. You'll come with me to events, but like I can't
career
offer you a
move.
life.
Yeah.
And they're okay with that. And
Which,
like,
But the problem is, in 20 years, they're gonna the tone will change.
has anyone done that though? I mean, it's been going on for.
Yeah, but they didn't do it for Hugh Hefner until decades later.
But like, this
has
has already
Blake
been going on.
Lively come out and said, Leonardo DiCaprio
she was younger. I mean,
took advantage
they were
of
both
me?
younger at that
But he
time.
was still
though.
minimum 10 years
Yeah.
older than she was. I mean, I think Ryan Reynolds is even
Yeah.
significantly older than she is. But like, to that end, wouldn't it have started happening by now?
No, it'll happen when he's in his 60s, in his
If
mid-60s.
he's still doing this in
If
his
he's still,
If at
yeah, if he's
all,
still-
honestly, I don't think you can get Me Too just for ghosting
Dating.
young chicks
Yeah.
after a couple months.
So, and like, it's funnier if we
it's the
find out.
tamest stuff you can find in Hollywood, actually.
It's funnier if we find out later that he keeps telling me, he's like, I really just want to get a girl pregnant, but he's actually has a vasectomy and he's just leading them on.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, and I was like, you're kind of, if you just want to like be seen in photos with women, but you're not interested in like
Yeah.
being with one or like having a kid with one, you're kind of missing one of the key factors of like being attracted to women, right? Like wanting to have a baby with one.
I don't think that's true. I think that there are a lot of men
He
that
wants the sex, he doesn't want the rest of it.
yeah, and having a kid is responsibility, and it's being older. Like,
Didn't we hear
if you're
something
trying
about
to
him,
seem
like-
perpetually young, you don't want to be a dad ever. I think this is gonna have the reverse effect, which is gonna start to make him look so old compared to these girls.
He does too. Like in
he's-
the photos, he's the definition of husky now.
right? And like, he's gonna be
The
like, oh,
Juvederm is migrating.
Like his body was always kind of is like on the huskier side, but now his face matches it because of all the
right, and
all of the fillers.
now he's like, well, date younger, and that's
Yeah.
gonna make it look worse. It's like
it's like a desperate bid to seem cool and hip still, and it's embarrassing.
Everyone was like applauding him because he dated a girl who was like 23. They're like, "Good for you! You aged up a little bit." Now he's like, "No, I'm not getting caught with any
What?
of that."
Where do I get this notion that he wears sound canceling headphones during sex? Where did that come from? Someone said that. Like that was an actual rumor that he like listens to ambient music or something.
That's amazing.
During
See,
sex. Like
I
I
said
mean,
he-
that would tell you that he's like not there for whoever he's with.
mean,
Right?
well,
He's there for
exactly.
himself. And that's telling. Like, if he is dating these people and being like, maybe he's like, yeah, I love you so much, we'll get married. And he's like, actually, no, I'm never gonna marry anyone. I don't want kids. I mean, he is operating in his own sphere.
Yeah.
And I think that should tell you that, like, he is aware that he gives these girls a platform.
Or
maybe make him look cool.
Maybe I've been wrong this whole time, and he actually is like a true climate zealot. And he's like, I would have kids, but the world's going to end. Al Gore told me the world is going to end in 12 years. Therefore, we can't have kids. Maybe that's why he got into climate change to begin with.
I 110% believe people do that.
He's like, he got into it so that he could just tell these women, look, I don't want to have kids because I don't want to commit. I don't want to.
I have known multiple girls who have been with guys for a long time, and the guys, they're trying to get more serious or whatever else, and at some point their boyfriend looks at them and was like, well, we just can't bring a kid into this world. It's too messed up.
That's
it. That's
it. That's
every
totally
single
what
guy
he's
who
doing
says
here.
that,
if you can feel virtuous for simply refraining from doing something, that's the easiest way out.
I think what you should hear
moral
is
responsibility.
If your boyfriend says that to you, you should hear, I don't want to have a kid with you. It's not about the world. It's this specific relationship.
Right.
So it's also.
I also want to hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, didn't for a long time people say like George Clooney dated girls who were much younger than him, and he was gonna be bachelor forever.
He eventually sat down.
Whatever else. He eventually settled down, right?
Late
but
50s.
in his like
with a woman who looks like she holds him on a leash.
Yeah.
which good for her. Whatever. But like it worked out eventually. I feel like what's different about Leonardo DiCaprio is like, if we believe that he ultimately doesn't want to get married, like, he is only going to evolve into being kind of creepy.
Yeah. Maybe he's still upset that he doesn't get to be this like to this day when you talk about men being good looking, it's like, well, he's no George Clooney. He's mad that it never transitioned to he's no Leonardo DiCaprio. So he's bitter about that. So he's going to be a playboy for years later than George Clooney, purely out of spite. I also think that part is like, maybe the thing is like, if he's actually casting these women, like, here, do you want to be my girlfriend? And now, like, because the thing was like, after COVID, he would go out with a mask even after like people stopped wearing masks, like, because celebrities, like, that's great for celebrities. They don't have to be recognized in public. And the girlfriend's like, no. If I'm going to date you, I have to put up with all this hoopla. You better go out without a mask so people get to see me and you out together.
I just found this GQ article that's called "This is what happened when I tried to have sex like Leonardo DiCaprio allegedly has sex." And he allegedly vapes and wears noise-canceling headphones during sex because it's just, he's not getting all of his senses stimulated enough,
to My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
I think there should be some kind of service in this day and age where women can leave Yelp reviews for men that they date or hook up with.
That's a horrible idea.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Women are so much more
I think
vindictive.
there was an app like that.
Really?
Yeah, I have to think about it. But it was one of these things you like comment anonymously. It could be wrong.
Women are so much more vindictive. It would be
like,
it would be like a creative writing.
What was that? West Village Caleb or something?
Oh, that's a horrible idea.
That just feels creepy to me, to be like, it's like eating at a restaurant except weirder.
And it's just funny too, because so the study from
West Elm Caleb, sorry, the serial ghoster from Hinge.
Also,
that went viral.
Like the
last
guy,
year.
like, women get celebrated for like using men to go out and get free meals, but the one guy who would who used all the women, like telling them they're like, he dated like 50 women and told them all a separate day was his birthday so that he could get different birthday gifts from all of them.
Why would you go on a first
China,
date with
right?
somebody on your birthday?
No, I'm saying like he did that, but then the women he kept up multiple relationships and told them all he had a different birthday so he could get different birthday gifts. But then and he got in trouble. Like he got like arrested,
got taken to court
like for
over this.
but the women who like brag about going out on dates with men just for the meal get celebrated and lauded by society. It's a double standard, I tell you.
You know, this behavior, like the guy who made up those fake birthdays and Leonardo DiCaprio constantly keeping a roster of constantly changing like 22-year-old models. It's all just like, I didn't get enough attention growing up. It's giving fatherless.
Well, and at what point do we say like, this isn't that cool anymore?
Well,
you know, like
yeah.
you were a cool actor back in the day and you've done some stuff, but now you're kind of a aging guy who can't settle down, who apparently can't hold a strong enough emotional bond to one human being to commit to them.
Can't pair bond.
It doesn't seem cool anymore. It just seems kind of sad.
I don't even think it's like the Me Too allegation that a lot of people are pointing it out to be.
I didn't get that.
It's just cringy.
Yeah.
It's just sad. Like, come on, buddy.
Also, I want to point out that his behavior is going to, like, his behavior, which has been like lauded for decades, is what hurts regular men, because when women talk about like men like doing this stuff, people don't realize that it's only the very, very small percentage of men who get to do stuff like this. Regular guys don't get to have rosters.
Nor should you.
Rich
like,
celebrities
hold on, team.
have rosters, but then all the music from the late 90s to the to the 2020s has been about how men are bad and men are players and independent women and this and that.
I'm
just
sorry,
saying,
but
in
like,
effect, it didn't hurt him. It hurts regular dudes because it makes regular men look like they're
I
not
really
trustworthy.
hope dudes in their late 40s aren't looking at these stories from Leonardo DiCaprio and thinking, yeah, I should be dating 19-year-old models too.
I'm a high value
Please
man.
don't. Also, like, I'm sorry, but like anyone who's out there, if you're dating a guy and he's like, yeah, my last relationship was with someone who was 100 years younger than me and it lasted 3 months, but before that, like, and tells you this stuff, like, you run away. Like, this is not good. I mean,
They
at
probably
least for
go
what
to
I'm
him
doing.
on purpose to get their name in the headlines.
Right.
though.
And at that point, like, that's where I came to the conclusion that this must be something he talks about up front from the beginning, right? Like, we can date, we can have a good time, but like, I can't promise you anything and I don't want to. And don't think you're different. None of you are different. Every single one of you was getting broken up with when you hit that special age of what, 24?
Half your age plus 7, ladies. Half your age plus 7.
That's just for men, I think.
It's for,
What was the other metric I saw earlier?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
if she can remember, or no, it's like if you can remember 9/11,
but but
but
COVID
she
interrupted
had her
education.
schooling interrupted by COVID, then you probably shouldn't date. Is that what it said?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Fair enough.
it's up
Seems
to your
fair.
discretion.
Look, I'm telling you right there, like half your age plus 7 is the one that that people go by. Also, it was just really funny because the Insider article, right, pointed out, it said, look, men prefer younger, but they're not actually getting the younger women because they're not messaging the younger women, and the women prefer.
Women don't message anybody.
Women don't message anyone, and they're saying that women prefer to date men within their own age range. But then there's the Edie article that says, why do I keep dating older men? And then it gives all the reasons that everyone knows why people date older men. They call it stability, right? They can offer them something that younger men cannot provide them. But is Leonardo DiCaprio providing anyone stability?
I think go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think Leonardo DiCaprio, I had a friend at college, a male friend, who said, college is weird because you're like with a bunch of people that are the same age, but that's actually not natural to most of society to have like hundreds or thousands of people who are within 4 years of each other. And he would always say, like, if you're a freshman girl and you think this senior guy is hitting on you because he thinks you're great and he's going to propose and whatever else, like, that's probably not true. He's probably trying to stay young and hook up and do whatever the kids are doing when they first get dropped off by their parents and left in the wild or whatever. And so to this extent, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to promote his youth by maintaining having a lack of relationship, by having like a cast of young girls or whatever else. And I think that ultimately no one really wants that, right? And so women are more likely to look at older guys and be like, oh, I want to date an older guy, or you might happen to it, because by the time they hit that age, they know that they are not looking for a fling or whatever else.
Also, people in the comments or in the chat right now are kind of talking about like nobody's saying like he's doing anything like wrong. I'm saying these are consenting adults. They're just saying that like it's always going to be a matter of public interest when he does this because
and also
of the
it's like
age
how
gap.
long? Like how long is he going to do this for?
Like he's not doing any.
Here's when I think he's going to stop. Because I saw this comment earlier that said the current age of the girl that Leo is going to be dating in 12 years is 7 years old. She's Gen Alpha. Just like she is part of the iPad generation. So I think Leo's dating habits are going to change once he realizes that he keeps dating all of these women who are raised by iPads and Cocomelon, and they can't pay attention to a single thing that he's saying. He's going to start being like, oh shit, I need to start dating women who are a little older.
He's going to be like, look,
their attention spans are worse than goldfish.
He's going to say, look, when I was in The Man in the Iron Mask, and they're like, what the hell is
I
The
don't know
Man
what
in
that
the
is.
Iron Mask? They're
like, what?
When he
Were you in Cocomelon?
What was Titanic?
When he keeps name dropping celebrities he's worked with and they don't know
They
who
have
they
no
are.
clue who that
I'm
is.
like, my dad likes that guy.
No, what'll happen is like he'll mention something and it'll be like a TikTok trend by that time, and it won't actually be what he's talking about.
And like younger chicks are gonna start dating older men because they're going to be the men who haven't downloaded the app called TikTok.
Exactly.
Right?
I just think eventually Leonardo DiCaprio will come out as gay, and he'll be like,
A lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe that all the women that he dates are hired by PR agencies.
I do. It does kind of feel like that, doesn't it?
Like, that he's basically
a little
like
bit
they're casted. And it's like they get a picture of them holding hands as they go through traffic and their heads down and stuff like that.
And if he doesn't want to pay attention to them during sex, then maybe he just wants to think about somebody else.
That could be because he's
a man.
I mean, that could be because he's a narcissist, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
He's like, the sound of your voice is grating on me.
I wish it were a man's
He
voice.
says it's ambient noise, but it's not ambient
I'm
noise.
telling you, he's listening to My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. He's like,
oh no.
I'm telling you, the number one thing is like, he's like, okay, if you were on this door and we were floating in the ocean, would you move over and give me space on the board?
The catch is that they would both die because of hypothermia.
Apparently, because they're re-releasing Titanic in the theaters soon.
Oh, so glad that's happening.
I know, right? But,
Another
like,
W for James Cameron.
right? Like, but they're doing a thing where they're redoing the test to see if two people could have gotten on that board. Like they're like doing a special.
I saw that.
They're doing like
Too
a special
late.
on it.
He would have died. Come on. He would have had hypothermia.
Broad just lets him die and then throws the thing in the water at the end. Throws the necklace in the water.
Worst
That was the worst
Come
part.
on. That was your grandchildren's inheritance.
You could have given that to your grandkids. It's horrible.
know.
Let's go to Super Chats.
Nebik27 said Post Malone has a place in Morgan, Utah, 20 minutes from me. Well,
He's-
don't dox yourself, dude.
He's very wholesome in a weird way. I love
I think
Post
that's cool.
and he's also like a legitimately good artist. Like, let's go.
Caper2X said, you mean Liberia, Hannah Claire, but if we're going to discuss politics, Republicans were established with a strong abolitionist platform from the start. Of course, that's not taught. I wonder why.
Why isn't that taught?
Well, you can't talk about slavery in this country or the Civil War because you can't talk about nuance. And when you are, like, I was told by a history teacher that, oh, no, it's not that Republicans were abolitionists. It's that the parties just traded names at one point.
They switched.
Like,
yeah,
it doesn't
the party
matter what
switch
they
thing.
say. And I know it's Liberia. There are a couple others, but generally, I think it makes people uncomfortable to talk about, which I understand, I respect, like I get that, but
Well, you're not allowed to be uncomfortable with it if you're white.
you're right. I think it makes everyone
Well, yeah,
uncomfortable.
you are, but you have to admit it and then admit it with shame.
Well, and I think part of it is like with this specific option of like, do we just move people back to Africa? Which I'm not saying that would be the easiest option, but like, would that have disrupted the generational trauma that a lot of black advocates say was then experienced? Like if you got to be reunited with your home nation or at least get closer to it than being in America, you wouldn't grow up with the Constitution. On the other hand, like, would that have been better? Like, we can't consider these things because they are uncomfortable and everyone feels like they'll always say the wrong thing, which is challenging. It's too bad.
Evan King said, was Captain Planet propaganda or entertainment?
Look, Captain Planet was great, but it was pushing the boundaries even then of like environmentalist propaganda. Gosh, I need to find. I wonder if that's on. It's got to be on a streaming platform by now. Oh, by the way, half your age plus 7 for Leonardo DiCaprio is 31. So
He says, "Shut up! I'm not that old."
He should be dating a 31-year-old.
Well past his due date.
Yep.
Bryce E said, after the 4th episode of The Last of Us, my faith in the series is shaken. They honey-decked us? What is that? With the first 2 episodes and deviated from the source material again. They're already halfway across the US.
The one thing that was funny, I thought about this when I was looking at it. Like, look, they thought of those first 2 episodes as like a hook, right? Like, we'll be real accurate with those first 2 episodes. Now, remember, this isn't bothering me because
and then you switch with the gay telenovela.
And then yes, but like I said, it's not bothering me. I liked episode 4. I liked Ellie's character growth. Me, Mary, and Wesley, we all kind of disagreed on this. I enjoyed it, but yeah, there is definitely an argument to be made that those first 2 episodes being like so close to the games was like, we're gonna hook them in with this, but the viewership has gone up. So I don't know. Like, you tell me,
because people's standards are too low.
adaptation does require some things to be changed. The question is it being faithful? A lot of people believe that it's not because it's almost no action, right? There was an article that I completely forgot about where Neil Druckmann said we're going to remove all the violence except for what's absolutely necessary. And a lot of people have a problem with that. Like,
I'm not saying go to the extreme with it, like Wesley was saying body horror.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but it's a freaking zombie show.
Yep.
And in the video games, there's constant intervals of combat.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know if that's just like there is an argument to be made that like they don't understand, or perhaps they're just not adequate enough at breaking up those segments, right? Where it's actually kind of an art to be able to go from action to drama, back to action to drama. Like one of the things that's funny is like I've been watching this horrible Mortal Kombat series and I love it and it's great and it's so bad, but I'm laughing the whole time. But the martial arts in it's just like it's in these quick intervals, right? Where like it's like a bunch of horrible dialogue and then the scene ends with some martial arts fight, right? But you can telegraph it from a mile away once you watch a couple of episodes because it's formulaic. This, they're not even trying to find a formula outside of like every episode is a bunch of drama and then they have like one minor action or zombie set piece that it's based around. And in this last one, it's them, dealing with the people in the town that are trying to stop their car, right? It's the people who put them through the things that flatten their tires, right? The spike strips and everything like that. And then Joel having to kill the Brian guy. Like that was your action set piece for this episode, and that was really it.
Yeah, I felt like a blink of an eye.
But and the funny thing is, I went back and watched it, what Wesley was talking about how he's saying how the scenes in the upstairs scene where they're sleeping at the end felt rushed. And I see upon a second viewing what he meant by that, because it does feel like, look, their backs to the door. They're like, we got 2 hours to shoot this. And they set up a static shot. Like there's no camera movement. There's no dynamic imagery there. Like there's no slight pan forward or tilt with the lens. It's like they shot it quick and then got the hell out of there. Like, which makes no sense because that thing could have very easily have been rebuilt on a soundstage. Like there was no need to film that on location at all.
Yesh sent us $1 without a message.
Thank you, Yesh.
Savrik said, anyone coming out of academia or consumes media without question is a potential revolutionary, disgusting, evil, old yeller, all of it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that like it's more powerful than I think. Like we can say that kids aren't watching it, but like what I was thinking about is like when I was young and the propaganda edutainment stuff was once in a while, it stood out because it was once in a while. It stood out roughly against the backdrop of much better, more adequately created shows. Now when all of it's bad, it blends in. And that's almost worse and more nefarious.
Sketch Therapy said, never attribute to ignorance a pattern of malice.
Yep.
Yes, on point. Bobcat said, hi, HC. Have you finished those movies yet? I still think you'd enjoy those books I'd recommended. Personally, I like Target Deck the most.
Is that a book? Target Deck?
It's part of a series.
Okay.
He recommended to me a little while ago. I haven't finished the movies. I will work on that. I think I'll probably do a double feature or maybe this weekend and then come back.
I think once you get through two more, you'll be like, oh, I see the light.
I'm close to being able to see the light at the end.
The light at the end of the very, very noisy car tunnel.
Yeah, Andrew Minks was kind of heckling me. He's like, you just need to watch one every single day for 12 days.
Oh,
every day?
I was like, why? I don't want to be watching them.
Every day?
He's like, it's not that bad. You just watch one. Like, I don't watch a movie every day.
Starting Harry Potter, I already know how hard it is. I'm going to fall asleep in the middle of literally every single movie. Jimmy Bags 86 said, is there a limit to how far DEI influence grows? That remains to be seen.
The only option is creating alternatives.
I just wonder when I see hashtag boycott Disney trending, how serious are we about boycotting Disney? Because I see just as many comments that are like, you're on my last nerve, Disney. I'm about to do it. I'm about to cancel my subscription to Disney Plus. I'm so close. If you keep doing this, I'm gonna cancel it. Look, my finger's hovering over the button. I'm gonna cancel. But they never do because they still want to watch the content. Which is fair enough, but I mean, you only have so many options. You if you want to support them. If you don't.
Yeah, for me, it's one of the hard things where it's like everyone's like, oh, I'm about to, like, I see people like on Breitbart articles, they're like, I'm walking away from Disney now. I'm like, really? You comment?
Took you this long?
You comment on Breitbart and you're just walking away from Disney now?
Right.
If you didn't walk away years before, who the hell, who
it's that
hasn't?
old content that they used to make that keeps you subscribed.
Yep.
Bobcat said, nobody's being replaced by AI. It's just a lot of jobs can be easily replaced by a long array of if or else statements.
Yeah.
BMF Nate Dogg sent us $2 without a message.
One
Thank
more,
you.
and then we'll
right.
we'll move on.
I see Wells said, Brett, I just started watching Person of Interest. I forgot just how good of an actor Jim Caviezel
Dude,
is.
he's so good. Like if I could figure out how to do his voice in the show where he talks really low like this. There's this great scene in like a later season where he's doing his voice, and somebody guy goes, "How do you do that?" With like it becomes like it's like the only time the show gets a little bit self-aware. The guy's like, "How do you do that with your voice?" He's like he talks like this no matter how serious the tone, no matter how hectic the scene, he's always talking in a very monotone voice. I wish I could do that. So we've had like one episode here where I was like sick and my throat was husky, and I was like realized like, yeah, I sounded great that day because I didn't have my manic sounding voice. Yes, keep watching. It goes from a good weekly like episodic science fiction kind of procedural and becomes a science fiction masterpiece, in my opinion, in the later seasons. Though it does girl boss heavy in the later seasons with Sarah Shahi and Amy Acker. I give them a pass because it's Sarah Shahi. So that's, you get Sarah Shahi privilege here. It's a thing.
All right, we're going to move on and talk about Armie Hammer, who just did an exclusive interview with Air Mail. And this is his first time speaking out after the R-word allegations came out about him from a woman named Effie Angelova.
Yep.
So he explained a lot about his personal history, and it kind of felt like a distraction from the issue at hand. It felt like a distraction from addressing the allegations, and they were really serious ones. And actually, Effie came out again in response to this interview, and she posted another video explaining what happened to her, or allegedly happened to her, in detail. And I can't say exactly, but she is describing, she said over 4 hours of violent abuse that she was not able to escape from.
Yeah.
And afterwards, she showed screenshots of text messages that came directly after that incident, where she said she was still trying to appease him and repair the situation and repair their relationship. And she explained in her new video, like, her motivation for doing that was that she felt like she was almost like brainwashed.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, like Stockholm syndrome, which is a classic response that we see from these people. So in this interview, he brought up a story from his past, saying that a youth pastor that he knew when he was 13 allegedly abused him.
Am I ghoulish for thinking that this feels like he's like, everyone in Hollywood hates religion?
It feels like someone's pointing a finger at me. Let me point a finger somewhere else.
That was my
look over there.
That was my thought, where he's like, what could I say that would both get me leeway and is something that would bring me back in their good graces? And that's what this felt like to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's ghoulish of me.
So all he has actually admitted to in this interview is being in emotionally abusive relationships in which he had BDSM sex with adult consenting women. So he has not admitted to any criminal behavior.
Yeah. And look, to our society and our media, like the media apparatus of America, it's kind of their own fault for like glorifying the cannibal text messages that
that's
were all
I remembered.
That's all
from the
they remember,
situation.
because it was more scintillating. It was like I kid you not, there was articles that were like noted cannibal Armie Hammer, like, you can just say that. He's like having weird cannibalistic fantasies is not the same thing as eating
where
a dude.
He's like role playing over text messages.
That's not, and so the actual allegations of actual abuse got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And that's to the fault of the media.
It's also because those are so common in Hollywood.
Yeah.
They had to find a catch why you should.
They're like,
click
oh
on the
man,
articles.
they're like, Harvey Weinstein's a thing right now. We need something that stands out about this. Ooh, he fetishized eating women.
And all those text messages proved are that Armie Hammer is a privileged Nepo baby who has no distinguishable personality traits and decided that his personality trait was going to be his weird cannibal fetish.
Yeah.
Like, he's just an uninteresting person who made his sexual proclivities into a personality trait.
Which is sad because the dude was like a successful actor. He could have been interesting in any number of ways. I am sure he didn't need to do that.
Yeah, so here's what he said in his interview with Airmail. What that did for me was it introduced sexuality into my life in a way that it was completely out of my control. I was powerless in that situation. I had no agency. Sexuality was introduced to me in a scary way where I had no control. My interests then went to, I want to have control in the situation sexually. So that is his explanation for why his cannibal fetish came to be in his psyche.
Yeah.
But that's not really what people should want an explanation for. They should be asking for an explanation regarding the serious allegations. It's just the media's manipulation of this story has gotten to the point where he hasn't even needed to respond.
Does anybody have a hard time with stuff like this because there's no way of knowing? Like I see stuff like this. She's crying. She seems very sincere, but he's like I can't know. I can't know if he did this. I'm not going to say this dude's guilty because she's crying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I have no, and I don't want to hear the crap about how there's no upside to making it up. I don't think or know necessarily that's what's happened here, but I'm done pretending like that's not something that happens.
Yeah. Variety is saying that they corroborated this story by interviewing his godmother, or that
it happened to him. Like what happened to him, right? Like so
when he was 13.
Like when he was 13. But I'm saying I'm not. I can't take what he's saying for granted. I guess in this case, yes, then she can corroborate that, but nobody can corroborate her story.
Well,
like I don't know.
His story of suffering abuse doesn't negate a story of him inflicting
no,
it.
It doesn't.
In fact,
it's pushing
those could be connected based on what he's saying in this interview.
And that's him passing the buck and saying because this happened to me. Like, but he's not even admitting to it.
If you can attain a victimhood status, can anyone weaponize their victimhood status against you?
Which is disgusting.
That's a disgusting way to think about it, but like that's the way it is.
Kids who are sexually abused are likely to abuse other kids. Like this is an established pattern. I don't think it excuses anyone, but it's similar to any kind of trial by jury where they try to introduce mitigating circumstances, right? So like the Parkland shooter, his mom was an alcoholic and he was born with all kinds of complications, both emotionally and physiologically. And does that make it okay that he did what he did, or does it just make it, and they argue
but
that
isn't that supposed to just isn't that supposed to be just for sentencing? Like no.
Okay, that was part of the trial. It came up over and over again.
I always thought that stuff was supposed to be there, obviously knowing nothing about it. Like the idea is like it doesn't make you less guilty, but it may offer mitigating circumstances for your sentencing.
For your sentence, I mean, like with the Parkland shooter, he had pled guilty, and it came up, and they had to decide like if the crime that was being brought against him what was applicable because of the circumstances he was in, right? And so it has to do with sentencing, but it comes up at trial pretty regularly. And I mean, it's hard to say. Just like you might to a jury, I feel like Hammer's trying to say, like, you have seen one depiction of me, especially with these cannibal texts, but you don't know the whole story. And I don't think it excuses his behavior, but it's a completely normal way to operate. I mean, who was it? Kevin Spacey, who was like accused of all kinds of things, and he was like, I decided to live as a gay man.
He's like I decided to come as a gay man. And everyone's like, really?
I think you missed the timing on this one, sir. I'm not surprised. Part of it for me is, why is this interview coming out now? He's electing to do it. He's contacting the media himself, which makes me think like he's getting divorced, right? There must be something else about to drop legally. And so
maybe they're going to lay charges against him.
It's not. I mean, obviously, if this happened to him, that's terrible. If he abused other people, that's also awful. But more than anything, to me, it's like, okay, what's the PR timeline here?
And there's evidence that his now ex-wife, Elizabeth Chambers, actually was in contact with Effie, who alleged these crimes, and used her story as leverage in her divorce case.
It's just so, like, what all of
these
this
people
says
are
to
gross.
Me, what all of this says to me is, like, it just shows you just what a media circus being a like, even the most painful thing you can experience in life becomes a show trial for everyone to witness, and they're all playing the game. Like you kind of have to, right? Like Effie has to. She has to now because she's thrown her hat in the ring. There's the documentary. She had all the stuff that came out about him. And is she going to get justice? I don't know. How do you prosecute something like this? You can't really. Like, it's not going to end up getting prosecuted in any meaningful way. It'll be a civil trial, right? Which has a lower threshold of, like, there's a lower burden of proof for that that. And he said, he's like, look, if I still had the messages that I sent her on Facebook Messenger, I would be able to prove that what happened between me and her was consensual, right down to the Starbucks we met at. Right. So, but he's like, I contacted Meta, and like, I was like, well, they shouldn't have deleted those messages, dude. Like, right. Like, but how am I that's very easily something a lawyer could have been like, pretend like there were messages, and then we'll pretend like we contacted Meta, and they'll be like, oh, we don't have those messages anymore.
I just get
it's all
irritated
fake.
when stories like this come out, and then we as observers and like the plebs are expected to react in a certain way and believe a certain party.
No, I don't believe either.
When like we simply can't know the truth,
Nope.
but then we're like painted as the villains if we don't believe the victim every time.
Yep.
You know, like another piece of the story that is being called into the question is a sewer slide attempt that Armie Hammer talked about in this interview.
Trying to bludgeon with guilt.
He said,
he
said that after Effie went public with these allegations, I just walked out into the ocean and swam out as far as I could and hoped that either I drowned or was hit by a boat or eaten by a shark. Then I realized that my kids were still on shore and that I couldn't do that to my kids.
Even invoking the kids there is emotional blackmail.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Effie went on her own Instagram story and was like, excuse me, you told me this about like swimming out into the ocean before I ever went public with the allegations to make me feel bad about your past abuse. So he had told Effie about his past abuse before any of this was public information, and then claimed that he swam out into the ocean over his feelings about his trauma.
But now he's saying he's doing it because he's being falsely accused, therefore he tried to do it. So it's all so
switching
fake.
up the timeline.
Yeah, it's all fake, and it's all positioning yourself in the best way possible for the media narrative.
And we're not just going to sit here and believe either party.
Nope.
Or believe Elizabeth Chambers or any of these people, because they're simply not living in the same culture as
It's
us.
the hardest part here. Like, there are times where like there's stuff I don't want to cover because it is kind of part of what you do. Like when you have these conversations, right? There has to be some type of discussion to be had that has a through line, right? And sometimes it's so messy that there's just no, like, you're just like, does anybody even want to hear you talk about this? Like the discussion here, we're framing it around the media shapes the narrative. And the idea here is that the world of, for celebrities, even the world of something as awful as abuse is different from that of which a normal human being lives in, right? Mm-hmm. That's a clean thing that you can portray to people when you're trying to have this conversation. Sometimes it's not that clean. It's not that easy to understand. Mm-hmm. And it gets lost. The message gets lost.
I blame the message getting lost entirely on the media.
Yep.
And I think that the Armie Hammer situation turning into a laughingstock and a meme was the media's fault, not us as onlookers.
Do you think there was any intentionality from his legal team or his PR team on that?
To shift the focus to the cannibal fetish?
Yeah, because it became this crazy thing. He's a cannibal, whatever else. And we all said at the beginning of this.
It's wacky. If he was a cannibal, he'd be in jail.
Right. And there's no evidence, so no one can prove it. And then
you're arguing about the wrong thing.
And at the end of this, like we all said at the top of this segment, that we completely missed the abuse allegations, right? Yeah. It became this weird thing. Armie Hammer, the accused cannibal.
Oh, isn't that wacky? Get it?
What a quirky guy.
Benefited from this, and it would be hard not for me to see, like,
then it turns into a true crime series that people profit off of.
Imagine that conversation where like his person's on the phone. He's like, look, I know it's bad, but I know it says R word, but could we soften it to cannibal? Like that's freaking
because
evil,
it's
dude.
I mean, like if you challenge a message, putting something even crazier and absurd out there makes everything come into question, right? Yep. An abuse scandal might have gotten some traction, but like we said before, there are other people who come up with abuse. How often do you hear about the cannibal messages? And then there were actual texts. Yeah. And it makes it seem so ludicrous, you don't want to follow it.
Thank you. Yeah.
You should watch Jerry Maguire.
Okay.
Just don't
I'll add it to my list of things to do.
Also, guys, I have a special 300th episode crisis party sound effect that I am so excited about. So very excited about.
Should I announce what I'm going to do for the 300th
Oh,
episode?
yeah, we should say it now and mention it tomorrow.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So, okay, this might get me killed. But for all of the super chats, $10 and over, I am going to be inhaling helium before I read them out loud. And I don't know. I might pass out.
Start planning your
If I feel faint, then I will stop. But otherwise, that's gonna be our shtick for our 300th episode.
So start planning your messages that you want to hear read in the most ridiculous voice possible.
Serge is gonna be bald. I hope.
Let's hope he's done it by then.
I really hope.
Yeah.
I think that he will stick to his word.
Yep. All right.
He seemed very serious about it.
Do you think that there's here's the other thing about stories like this. There's no fairy tale outcome to there's no he ends up in jail. There's a video that shows because even if there's a video that shows the crime still happened. Right? So it's there is no great outcome for stuff like this. It's just sadness.
I just don't
broken
want
humans.
People to let the media memory hole things and manipulate them and twist their ideas of things. But this is an example where I literally fell victim to that. I only remembered the Cannibal text.
That's all I remember too. I was
and we were complete pawns in the media game.
I would read the articles. I'm why is it? They're accused cannibal. I'm he didn't actually get accused of eating someone,
there was no accusation of cannibalism at all.
I was who the hell did he eat? Nobody said he actually ate anyone. But why is this a thing?
But every publication that used that terminology had more clicks than the ones that didn't, right? And I stand by. I believe even if initially he tried to fight it or disprove it, I'm confident that by the end his PR team was this is good because everyone's talking about this and not the other thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's go super chats.
It's over 9,000 said, here's an idea, Brett. Shave your face before episode 300 and then don't do it again until episode 400. That's going to be a while.
Look, dude,
funny.
I do not look good with I showed Mary this picture once of me with really long facial hair. It's not good.
Why? What happens?
It's just
seeing that picture was an experience.
It looks bad already, but not as bad as me be you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. It doesn't look good when you're shaved. It doesn't look good when it's really when it's long. There's a magical ground between a month and a month and a half after I've shaved where it looks good for 3 to 5 days. And then after that, you're just on the tail end of it looking crappy again. But when my facial hair gets really long, it's bad. So I don't know if anybody would want to be subjected to that every day. It's not good.
1,000 Foot Deep End said, Mary, they're called beaver nuggets. Now I remember. My family plans road trip stops according to Buc-ee's locations. I rarely even buy food there. It's the bathrooms. For me, it's Cracker Barrel, but I have to check out a Buc-ee's in person.
My family used to plan road trips based on Cracker Barrels because they could, I think I've talked this before, but you could rent an audiobook from one and drop it off at the next one. So
that's funny.
Many a road trip were planned that way.
St. Miles said, I really enjoy the mix of Brett, Mary, and Hannah Claire. Thank you. John S. said, happy 41st birthday to Brett. Hope today's show marks another year of YouTube breaking content.
That would be nice. And also, when I'm 41, you'll know I'm going to look 41 by that.
You just start dating young women. And then
by that time, it'll be really bad. And my I wouldn't be able to prevent the facial hair by that time. It'd be awful.
X said, 2 out of 5. I do not recommend the sausage or the milk.
In reference to Buc-ee? Is that in reference to Buc-ee's?
Crispy Leg Transport LLC said, why is everything Leo's fault? There are 2 consenting adults in this situation.
I don't think anybody was placing fault on anything here.
I said that the girls had their own motivation.
Absolutely.
So. I don't think it's fault. I
think you're being a little defensive.
Yeah. I think he should date someone older, but if he's not going to, I don't think he's necessarily doing anything wrong.
Who should he date then? There you go. Fantasy book Leo's dream relationship.
I don't know, man. I think he needs help.
I think he probably should stay single for a while. Meditate on that.
Who should he date?
No, like I said, I think he should stay single and meditate on that for a minute.
It's he's one of those guys who needs to learn how to be single.
It sounds like he hasn't been single in a solid 20 years.
He's afraid of being alone with his own thoughts. That could be it.
Most celebrities. Yep. Ryan Rubino said, if she didn't see Cinderella on VHS, she's too young for you, bro.
Oh yeah.
It's been a while since VHS though.
Or what? Yeah, well, yeah, but VHS was around when I was a kid, and I'm older than 31.
It depends on the age, right?
Yeah.
Rhaegar Targaryen said, "What is Cocomelon? You don't know the genius that is."
Go to YouTube, type it
Cocomelon."
in, but not right now. Do it later.
Yes.
John S said, "PCC brings." What is that?
It's a pun. It's a
Do you want to say it?
no.
All right,
We'll
then I
leave
won't.
it.
High Voltage 75 said, "The real poll question should be, will Leo ever settle down and start a family? I say yes. I mean, Mick Jagger fathered a child in his 70s. It's not ideal."
Was he in his 70s when he had his he's like
So
he's like,
same
he's,
with,
he's gonna pick that kid up and he's like, oh
Letterman.
my back, ow.
Yeah, definitely not ideal, but, you know, we hope the best for him. John S. said, "I spelled it right. Don't gaslight me." Sketch Therapy said, "Switch Democrats forced beep till 1977.
There you go.
I'm not going to say that out loud, dude. Noah Frager said, "What is everyone's favorite science fiction movie?"
Hannah Claire.
I have to think about it. You go first.
It's kind of cheesy, but probably V for Vendetta. It's like a comic book and science fiction movie, kind of. But I liked Dark City was really, really good. There's a lot of them. Demolition Man is technically considered, I guess, would be considered science fiction. There's a lot of, it's not my genre by choice, but, I love the original Matrix, but that's so long ago. And that's one of those things, once you work here and you have to hear the red pill or the blue pill, it just ruins it. And you know that I don't remember who I was talking to recently. Was it you who, I was like, did you know that the Wachowski sisters used to be the Wachowski brothers, and so didn't know that the Wachowskis had transitioned, and it's different time.
I guess the first one that comes to mind for me is Gattaca.
There you go.
Is Gattaca the time one?
No, it's it's been a while since I watched it, but it's basically they take these mood stabilizing drugs.
It's a familiar name, but I can't think of the movie.
Chat, I ask you, what is your guys' favorite science fiction movie?
Would you say Limitless is science fiction?
I think Limitless is the one I'm
Limitless is
thinking
the
of,
one you're thinking
where they
of.
grab arms. Yeah, I feel like that's the only thing that comes to mind. But I'm not a science fiction expert. I know these things may
Also,
not exist.
people should watch the Limitless TV show if they can find it somewhere. It's such a rare.
Literally the last thing I would watch.
It is such a rare example of a show being not. It should have failed, but it did fail. It only got one season, but by every metric, it shouldn't have been good. What's the actor's name? Bradley Cooper. He's only in 5 episodes, but it's so good. It's got Hill Harper. It's so good. It makes no sense. It's got Jennifer Carpenter.
Chad is right. Gattaca is about gene editing.
Yeah,
dystopia.
that's what I thought. Where they have the 9-figured piano player or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they have that that one is really cool. I just like time as a concept. So
it's it's good, man. I think everyone should go. If you can find the
Hot
Limitless...
Tub Time Machine is my favorite science fiction movie.
There you go.
John Stewart said, "Love you guys. Keep being awesome."
Wow,
the real John Stewart.
He loves our show.
Pop culture.
Wouldn't
so
that
amazing?
That would be a funny guest to get on, right? John Stewart,
It would be funny. I don't know if it would go well.
Yeah, it was. He's I feel like we could keep it neutral. It would be I would love to see Bill Maher do something like this where we're just trashing the people that he hangs out with. I think about that sometimes. This guy would be a great guest. I'm yeah, but do they really want to hear us make fun of the people that they know?
Yeah, you should bring them on because then they can give you a different perspective, right?
That would be the hope, right?
They can corroborate what kind of people they are. Character witnesses.
DD Mega Doodoo 97 said, "Brett, for the next Crisis Party sound, you should include the Italian music from the PCC outtakes. Has Hannah Claire seen it yet?"
Have you watched that the outtakes?
Greatest Hits Volume 2.
You should also watch Pop Culture Crisis in Italian.
Okay, send me some links.
It's
I'll
incredible.
Do it.
Let's do one more and then we will move on.
Isaac Martinez said, "Armie Hammer, 21st Century Dracula."
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. All right, guys, we are moving on. So the Grammys.
We're still processing the trauma of the 2023 Grammys. I know we talked about it yesterday, but that was mainly focused on Sam Smith being cringy. And a little update on
Fat
that
Satan.
is that CBS tweeted that they are ready to worship in relation to Sam Smith and Kim Petras'
then deleted
performance.
it.
And then they deleted that tweet after the backlash flooded in, saying that it was a satanic ritual.
Look, I think there's an interesting discussion here about the Grammys and acceptance and inclusion and mass hysteria with everything-ophobia that society is right now, in that Kim Petras won a Grammy. Dave Chappelle won a Grammy. Isn't this the liberal society that we have worked towards?
Where everyone can be accepted.
Where everyone can be accepted. Where Dave Chappelle wins his Grammy for making his jokes, and Kim Petras wins her Grammy for her awful song with Fat Satan. And we go from there.
Not Fat Satan.
Yeah, with Fat Satan. Okay, I called him Chubby Satan, but
you went easy on him.
I went easy on him. Breitbart called him Fat Satan. Like, look, there it is. That's inclusion, right? You won your Grammy. You won your Grammy. They weren't even participation trophies. Isn't this kind of what we want as a society? Am I wrong about this?
I mean, in theory, but then it never works when these people butt heads. So because Kim Petras and Sam Smith, both identifying as like gender queer or trans, won best like pop duo, right?
Yep.
Then Dave Chappelle wins best comedy album at the same time. You can't decide whether the Grammys is making bounds in inclusion and diversity, or if they are complicit in harm against the trans community.
You can't win
when you're part of that faction. So it doesn't make sense for them. And another thing is, I didn't know this, but Dylan Mulvaney was invited to the Grammys for some reason.
And to this day, I say, who and why?
Yeah,
do mainstream people like know who this is?
I think kind of, but also, I mean, it's not unusual for random influencers or people with social media platforms to get invited.
Yeah, they invite just random people.
Someone was like,
they literally hire
Dylan
people
Mulvaney,
to be
who's
good-looking.
literally not famous for anything, like
Yeah.
only famous for talking about the trans issue over and over again. Like on social media, it's not like
It would be funny.
Theoretically famous from Broadway shows.
It would be funny.
Previous
not enough for
to
anyone to
the
remember.
grifting stage on TikTok.
It would be funny if they had like somebody should do a thing where it's like when you go to the Grammys, they have like a nosebleed section where they put all the TikTok
Dylan
people.
Mulvaney
And they put the
and-
TikTok influencers and they put the activists in the nosebleeds and then turn that into a segment.
They put Andrew Tate there because his rap songs.
Hey, you
got
leave
nominated
Andrew Tate
for some-
alone. You
No.
want, like, free Cobra, am I right?
But he would be in the nosebleed section.
No
you
way,
know?
man. No way. He'd
With all the rest of the social media
he would
influencers.
drive up in his Bugatti and he would be allowed in the main floor.
Another thing that happened that I was unaware of is people are mad at Trevor Noah because he sexualized Harry Styles.
but when Harry Styles sexualizes Harry Styles, no one cares.
He said that he's a sex symbol, and he said women throw their panties at this man, and when he puts them on, he looks better in them than they
I was going to say,
do.
they throw them at him because maybe they're like, you need something to wear. And he's just like,
Play this video, and we'll see if Harry Styles looks uncomfortable at this.
Sexiest man. Are you kidding? There's no competition. Sex symbol of the globe.
And here's an angry Harry Styles
kind
fan.
Of followed you around, that idea of you not just being a sex symbol, but that a lot of your music is inspired by this.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, I reckon. But I actually wanted to ask you genuinely serious.
Then he goes on to say he tries to think about it as little as possible because it's very strange. Women throw their panties at him and he puts them on and looks better than they do.
well, when you dress the way
This
you
woman is
do,
absolutely unhinged.
when you dress the way you do, you invite a certain amount of criticism. If he dressed like a normal dude, that comment would have never been made. Sorry.
I mean,
deal with it.
Even when other male celebrities have dressed androgynously, they didn't get the same backlash, only because we can tell by the tone of it that Harry Styles is doing this purely for attention, thinking that he's subversive, thinking he's super original, when in reality he's just stealing the ideas of people who did it decades before him, and they did it better and more tastefully, actually, if that's even possible.
If it makes someone comfortable to be a sex symbol, okay, no problem. But stop presenting yourself in all of these ways that seem somewhat sexual, right? Like
right.
you're in the conversation when you're on magazine covers and you're
Because
you write theoretically write your own music, or I'm not sure what he does, but like if you want to stop being associated with sex, stop associating yourself with sex.
Yeah. And then when Harry Styles dresses in women's clothing, he specifically seems to dress in this style that is generally, I hope I don't get, us in trouble on YouTube for saying this. It's an actual term. He dresses in this style called kinder whore.
Never heard it.
that actually was invented and is still worn by women, like female artists. That was actually like
Wait, what is it? I mean, I heard that. Like, what is it supposed to mean? Like, what is that supposed to be in reference to?
Kinderhort.
Like that is because
It's
of,
like adopting the aesthetics of like girlish clothing, but then reclaiming it for like different adult themes. I don't really know the meaning behind it, but basically he's taking that specific aesthetic for when he dresses androgynously and then sexualizes himself while dressed that way.
He kind of doesn't have not the right, like at a certain point you put yourself out there, right? Like I'm not a huge fan of like having my every opinion critiqued or like doing something like this, but I've accepted that it's what I'm doing, and therefore whatever pushback or whatever commentary you get, good or bad, you've invited upon yourself because you made the decision to do that. You do not have to be a public figure if you're Harry Styles. You can move on and do something else.
He could do nothing for
Well,
the
you
rest of his life if he wanted to.
In this capacity, people see us and they see, like, I would say not even 1% of our lives, right? So they don't know what else is happening.
Yeah.
And for Harry Styles, I think if he is going to make a career off of being even more public, I mean, like, you guys are public, and in some capacity, he is even more public. He has to take ownership of his actions, right? I don't actually believe he picks out his own clothes. I believe he has a stylist
for
for
sure.
it, who is deciding that this is the style he'll dress in.
Makes
He's
him
saying,
marketable.
like, sure,
There's probably
whatever,
like a
sounds good.
firm that like tells him like this is like what would be
This is
good
what
for you.
is artsy and edgy right now.
Right. But if he doesn't like the way he's being perceived, he has to, at a certain point, decide that this kind of fame is not worth it for him, right? He has to decide that he doesn't want to
Thank you.
carry on this, somewhat androgynous / like not androgynous style. Because the thing about Harry Styles is, like, if you look at him, he's fairly muscular. He's tall.
Yeah,
he's got
he's
facial
in
hair.
good shape.
He
He's
is
got, like,
not
the-
presenting as androgynously as a lot of like supermodels who are known for their androgynous look would, right? Like, he is masculine, he's just in feminine clothing.
Yeah.
And to that extent, you are wanting to be a part of this conversation. So you can't have it both ways.
These days, it's just like how Ezra Miller was praised for like wearing lipstick and painting his nails back before he was a criminal.
It's so not edgy and it's so not cool. Like it would be cooler if they did kind of what Prince and them used to do, which is like not draw attention to it, right? It's just who you are, right?
It's so
cooler
easy
if you
now
do that.
to adopt that aesthetic and have none of the authentic, like, artistic chops behind it.
Yeah.
To defend your decision of how you present yourself. And I don't know why, if Harry Styles is so uncomfortable by the comments Trevor Noah made, an army of a bunch of teenagers and women in their 20s need to go, march on the internet in his honor to defend him. Like, he's a grown man that can speak for himself. And if the moment made him uncomfortable, then he should say so, and it's none of anyone else's business.
Well, and if he doesn't like the specific joke, like women throw their panties at him, which is like theoretically a rock star kind of thing, right? Then, and he puts them on, he looks better. If like that bothers him, again.
I was just watching an old live performance of Muse the other night. They were performing Madness. I don't think it was like 2016 in like Germany or something like that. And there's this hilarious shot where I don't remember the lead singer's name, when he's walking to the front of the stage, and like 3 different sets of panties like basically just get thrown at him at the same time, and he just has to walk through it like nothing's happening. Like it's the life you kind of sign up for if you're in that world.
I'm not saying it's pleasant, but like recognize that you have enough agency to act differently, right?
They don't believe in agency in Hollywood. That's the problem.
Or this is the price you're paying for the type of fame you're pursuing.
And to be fair, it's not like he said anything to Trevor Noah. True. He just looked uncomfortable, and he's like, that could happen to anyone, where it's like Trevor Noah's
uncomfortable. I don't know why Trevor Noah's doing
Trevor
this.
Noah's got his job to do. He has to say something annoying. He's good at that. He's very good at that. And he goes up, he says something annoying that's like...
Now we know how Trevor Noah charmed Emily Ratatouille.
Who's the one that...
We know he's picturing Harry Styles in women's underwear. Like, that says more about Trevor Noah than anything
I thought Emily Ratatouille was with what's his name now?
Eric Andre. She was with Trevor Noah as well. She'll date all of them.
She'll get
until
through
the list. She's just going down the list of annoying male feminists.
She's the Pete Davidson of women.
Every day that we don't have to talk about her is a good day. Like today doesn't count because it's not like about her, but like every day that like it's like another day marked safe from having to talk about Emily Ratatouille.
The difference between her and Pete Davidson though is that Pete Davidson is dating the hottest women and Emrata is dating like the worst, most like garbage looking men.
Yeah,
on purpose.
They excel. They go for the maximum. With the people we're dating, he's dating as hot as possible. She's dating as annoying as possible.
She's dating down.
Why do you think she's doing that?
I don't know. She needs to feel like she's in control or something.
Also, then feminists can't attack her, right?
Do you think that
I sent you this video of Dylan Mulvaney, by the way.
Okay.
I think they were paying specially close attention to Dylan Mulvaney, like attending this red carpet, simply because it was recently announced that he got this like facial feminization surgery that
Made a
like
huge
carves down
reveal.
your jawbones
I
and stuff
thought
like
that,
that.
like if they were who they were supposed to be from the beginning, that they didn't. Why would you need to do the surgery?
So he looks the way he believes he should.
We're not going to pretend that it makes sense.
I-
But if you look at this video, Brett, I need to put it on screen.
It's so I was watching it and like
You're like watching in horror.
kind of
The narcissism is palpable.
Yep.
Like
This is
you
the whole video
actually
series,
think
dude.
you're relevant to the culture?
It's funny too because this is like a video series with the guy who's always at these red carpets who does the sweeping, you know, crane video shots, and they're actually of like real celebrities who are like actually famous people.
Meanwhile, you just got
Yeah.
like a TikTok grifter
Yeah.
who's wearing a
Who
designer
literally
gown.
even if this guy is like doesn't know who it is, has to pretend like he knows who it is,
Yeah.
and has to be like, you're so brave, because if you don't, you're going to be attacked and called names.
And then on the other hand, the CEO of the Recording Academy had to respond to the backlash on Dave Chappelle's win,
yeah.
saying, "We don't control who the voters vote for. If the voters feel like a creator deserves a nomination, they're going to vote for them."
That's
they were also mad
democracy.
about Louis C.K. being in the nominees. He continued, "We're never going to be in the business of deciding someone's moral position or where we evaluate them to be on the scale of morality. That is a lie. I think our
A very
job is
bold
to
one.
evaluate the art and the quality of art. We can make sure that all of our spaces are safe and people don't feel threatened by anyone. But as far as the nominations on the awards, we really let the voters make that decision."
That makes no sense because they literally say that what Dave Chappelle does is literally violence. That his words are literally violence. They
I
love
just
that
think
word,
all
literally.
of this was a ploy to become relevant again, right? Their viewership
Sam
is
Smith-
extremely down. Sam Smith thing people have clipped and are still watching.
He's not relevant. He hasn't been
having
relevant
Dylan
in-
Mulvaney there, you get whoever's interested in that.
Yeah.
Bringing on someone who's controversial but has like survived the controversy. Dave Chappelle, good. Like I said,
That
beyond-
gives you social media buzz, but it doesn't give you ratings of people actually tuning
It's
in.
the ratings went
to
up by
CBS.
it went up from like 8.9 million to 12.4 million. So it did go
so
up.
it did go up. And also, I said this, we talked about this on IR a little bit, and again, it's adapt or die. All of these award shows have to realize that just streaming isn't enough for them. They have to live on social media. They have to become part of vernacular so people then tune in again next year, right? So if you have these controversial things, the chubby Satan, you have, Dave Chappelle, should he be there? You give Beyonce the biggest award of the night, and she makes
And she set a
history.
record. She set
right.
she
Right.
set
All
her
of these
Like
moving
all
parts.
of this
Notice-
is so that when you look up any of these celebrities for the next minimum
Yeah.
couple weeks, maybe even longer, your event, the Grammys, are associated with them. Like they are trying very hard to stay relevant, and they can risk some controversy letting Dave Chappelle be there. I don't think that his we let the voters thing. I just don't believe it. I think this is all a ploy to stay relevant to current culture.
I don't think it's working because, even though they're saying it was a surge in viewers from the last 2 years,
It's a surge in viewers from record low viewership.
Well,
they're
and,
still in
can they
record low
maintain it?
viewership from. They had 26 million tuning in 2017.
like they've only
40
been in the,
million in 2012.
Right. It's not a
You're at
complete
12.4 million and possibly going to drop once again next year.
But that's the gamble, right? They went up this year. Now they're trying to see if they can build enough momentum to keep it going. So if you remember, last year at the Grammys, they did this crazy thing, you're more likely to tune in next year. Even the conservatives who are against a lot of, whatever controversial performances, it's like hate watching,
Yep.
right? They're likely to tune in to be like,
I
can
don't
you
know,
believe what they're
how
doing?
many of them are Actually, that's not true. Like a lot of them were like posting the social media clip, but there were people who are like, I'm watching the Grammys right now. It is a form of addiction.
Yeah,
in
and
a way.
you
Like
get
they're
to-
like they know they don't want to watch. They know they're not going to like what they're going to see, but they can't help. But it's like a car crash, right? Like they can't help but tune in so that they can give their 2 cents about it on Twitter.
Can you imagine Chris Bertman, his live tweet of the Grammys, like hilarious, crazy. And I feel like now that we know this event is weird, like when my example here would be AOC wore the Tax the Rich dress to the Met Gala. Met Gala is also dying as a art form. But I bet a lot of conservative journalists, the next time the Met Gala rolled around, were like, we got to keep an eye on that because she did something weird last year and perhaps there'll be another stunt. Maybe there wasn't anything, but even then you're driving traffic to the what would they allow people.
It also annoys me because it's like maybe like they should be celebrating the Beyonce win as like a good sign that we as a society are evolving. Like we are a society that tells everyone this group is oppressed. It's all so bad, yet Beyonce sets a record for most Grammys won by an artist, and she's an African-American woman. Like that's a good thing,
Well,
right?
imagine the backlash if she hadn't won. If she
Who
were
else was
nominated and she
nominated?
hadn't won.
I don't even know who else was nominated.
Because it depends.
Like,
if someone,
yeah.
you know, another black female artist had won, they
Well,
might
it's
have
like
been okay.
they ended up letting the Andrea Riseborough nomination go through for the Oscars, where there was the question like, will they allow her to be nominated because they thought they took away because she was like basically like
story.
okay, so essentially for Andrea Riseborough, she was not nominated in the traditional way, meaning that other actors started like a grassroots campaign by emailing the Academy
Interesting.
and got her nominated, and of course the Race Hustlers came out and said you took a nomination away from the director or from the people who made Till or the people who made what was the Woman King or all these
Yeah.
things. So they got really mad about it, and they got it. And of course, because it's Hollywood and they have the room temperature IQ, it got accused of racism. But the Academy let it stand, and I was surprised by that. I was surprised they didn't back down and say, "Oh my God, we don't want to be called racist. We will remove this lady's nomination right now." It was actually about as close to like a weird feel good story in Hollywood as you can get. Is like this group of pretentious people felt so highly about this other pretentious person's art that they decided to pretentiously call in a way that didn't involve like a gazillion-dollar agency. You know, normally it's the studio that drives home those nominations and stuff, right? So it's like it's as close to an elitist feel-good story as you can get, and it still went through. So that's good. But with the Grammys, it's like, yeah, who did she take the award away from? But she's also, we talked about, she's bulletproof. She's not allowed to be criticized, but it's still an accomplishment, right? She's still, like, the media should be focusing on what she accomplished, but they never do. They make one article about it. They're like, she set a record, but then in 5 years, they're going to pretend like nobody's ever been nominated. There's no minorities that have ever been nominated for this, and that, because it's always a first for everything.
I think it'll just get smaller. Like it won't be right now. She's like she's the most Grammy award winning of all
artist,
time,
yeah.
regardless of anything.
Exactly,
right?
that's impressive.
So then it'll be the most Grammy award winning Latino woman or most
It's like Simone
decorated,
Biles.
whatever.
Like Simone Biles being the most decorated Olympian, like she's
Olympian
not
of all time.
Of all time, not regardless of
Which
race,
is super cool.
which is awesome. And like,
Yeah.
and that's what they don't realize is that's what people get excited about. They're like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That is actual human achievement. It's not it's not breaking it down into small categories for the sake of a title.
But
it's actual human achievement that we want to celebrate.
But they think there is a certain amount of good PR, right? Being like,
Yeah.
we are the award show that, recognize this group that doesn't get enough focus or representation or whatever first, showing that we are the most progressive.
Then
I just don't know that will sustain forever. I don't know that it's a lasting business model, but I do think all of these things are an attempt to revitalize interest in the Grammys.
Then you get stuck pretending that Sam Smith is scary. Ooh, fat Sam Smith is very scary with his devil horns.
Do you think he got the costume and then looked in the dressing room mirror and was like, yeah, I look good?
He's like, I look so cool
Looks
right
like he was
now,
wearing
dude.
a tent.
I just don't. It makes me feel bad, but I guess if you don't mind what you're wearing, I shouldn't feel bad about
Like
it.
I like the idea that like they didn't have like an actual hat, like they just stuck some fake horns. Like that's not a custom made hat.
It's
like
giving
Spirit
Party
Gum.
City.
Yeah, the hat gives Party City vibes. Like at the last minute, they just
Yeah.
took the fake horns and they put super glue on it and just stuck it on and said, Go do your evil satanic ritual dance.
And it did give me like secondhand embarrassment when he's like trying to look sexy and like feeling himself and just like
He could've been-
gyrating.
He could have been just reaching around and just ran into his body because he's so wide.
Oh yeah. Okay, that was savage.
Sorry.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. You're usually pretty nice on the show, Brett. That's uncharacteristic of you.
That topic yesterday annoyed me because everyone's like they're talking about it like it's the end of the world. I'm like, it's a fat dude playing dress up. I get that Hollywood is full of evil people. Can we at least laugh at the fat dude in red dress up?
Oh, who's taking this so seriously? Like you're totally right. Secondhand embarrassment. What are you doing?
But they're like, wow, like we really made the conservatives mad, didn't we?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're just like kind of grossed out and
also, you can
laughing at
make
them.
conservatives mad over anything. Like, it's not that big of an accomplishment to irritate conservative. It's just like
It's not hard
he
to
now
irritate conservatives.
He now has to live with this, the videos and pictures of this for the rest of
Yeah.
his life, and like he can look back
This
and
is
be like,
what you
I looked
stand for.
good when I was in my how old is he? 20, 30? Like this was the body I hoped to represent.
was your
the world.
career peak.
And it's like, and it makes me sad because the song "Latch" was actually good, and that's
He's a good singer. He's just wasting his talent
he
on
can actually
trying to
sing.
be a shock jock.
He
and
doesn't
it's not
need
working.
any of this, right? He's got a pretty
Yeah.
voice and people like his pop music. He doesn't need to do these
Who's
weird
the-
flashy things.
Who's the British dude, the other British dude who like his turned like self-fledged Louis Capaldi
On Doctor Who?
what's the it's
No,
it's,
he's a singer
the
songwriter.
singer, but it's not Louis.
And
Is it
Louis Capaldi.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
sorry,
he
I
did
was
this-
thinking about Peter Capaldi.
He did this
Yeah,
interview
Peter
on.
Capaldi.
I wonder if they're related.
I don't think it's spelled the same.
He did this interview. Louis Capaldi did this interview on Graham Norton that I saw a clip of where Graham Norton is like, "So your album's about to come out and it's already sold out. What do you think did?" And he's like, "Oh, pure sex appeal," because he's not like a particularly good-looking guy.
No, he's like
kind
a
of-
bit like he actually talks about like he talks about how he's bigger and like that's like become like there's a weird type of like self-flagellation to his brand.
But he takes it in
But he's a
stride
great
because he
singer.
knows and also he's making tons of money. Like he knows he's good at this. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to prove it to anyone. Whereas this, I don't know. I feel sad for whoever told Sam Smith this was a good outfit.
It's just stan accounts that are gassing
Do you,
him up.
do you think it's actually possible that he's there and they're like telling him like we're gonna do this and this and he wants to say no and he's just like I can't really say no. The song is kind of about this stuff. I
It's
wish I hadn't
classic
written this
peer
song.
pressure.
now.
And whoever picks out this costume says, "Oh, you look great. This is so bold. You look," whatever the cool kids' words
All
are for
he has
good.
to do here is wear like a dark suit with a red tie and a regular top hat or hat, like, right? He doesn't need the stupid looking Party City horns. Like,
Yeah.
there's a way to make this less embarrassing.
There's
That's
just
not
no
that
thought
difficult.
put into it other than we're putting a non-binary person and a transgender person on stage and you're supposed to clap.
Yeah.
There was no creative thought put into it.
Arf.
Let's go to Super Chats.
Let's do it.
X said, I've had a bad day. Please help somehow.
Have a better day, my friend. Yesterday was that was my day yesterday. I was just I've had better days.
What do you
than I
do
was
when you
having.
have a bad day?
Vibes
What's your,
were
like,
off.
go away?
Skating.
You skate?
Skate.
Yeah, I think
went-
mine is to like go outside and walk around.
Yeah, like
take a break.
I've been talking about this more and more recently because I've actually noticed a difference. Like before I came here to work, right? Like I skated every day for several years. We're talking 365 days a year for at least an hour a day. Like I would film edits every single day. And there is a difference between going out in the winter and doing it inside in the barn.
Skate parks and stuff.
That air is different than the air outside. I got to skate outside on Saturday and I did a couple of tricks. Like we were like, I talked to you that day, right? Like I did a couple of tricks for about 20, 30 minutes, but I was out there for like 2 hours because it was just so nice out. I would just skate up, do the same trick over and over again, basically in laps because I was just breathing in the fresh air because it was so nice out. And it's something that people who live in warmer climates that I think they actually get robbed of. If you live in a cold weather state, that first day of spring is literally life-changing.
Amazing.
It is life-altering.
I also think
how good it feels.
I also think the first day of like crispy cold, like
Yeah,
even if you don't love the cold, you just feel
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a change. I think your brain needs the signals of a different
Yep.
environment. So if you've had a bad day at your office job staring at a screen, go walk in the woods because it's completely different. You're using your muscles, you're engaged in nature.
I said, I don't even care if like you don't have to go walk far. Just go be outside, right? Like it's unbelievable how good it is for you.
Touch grass.
Yeah, I don't use that phrase because that's like, I was like, I'm not actually touching grass. I'm on concrete. And people like, that phrase has kind of become played out. But if you're having a bad day, dude, just get outside and get any type of activity, even if it's just for 10 minutes. I'm telling you, it will change your perspective even just a little bit.
Midnight Rider said, yo, the Mormon hate last week, WTF.
What?
There was no Mormon hate last week. We were just talking about NBA YoungBoy converting to Mormonism, and
I was talking about it more in the context of...
I think we were fairly neutral about Mormonism.
I was talking more about the context of like him actually admitting that there's something bad about the way their lyrics portray the world they live in, right? That there is an inherent amount of risk in portraying a culture that way, and he's acknowledging that, and that's what I found interesting. Yes, him possibly converting to Mormonism was part of the story, but to us it became about him acknowledging that the lyrics are damaging, which is a very interesting discussion to be had as somebody who loves rap music. I was literally just listening to UGK before this show, and Old Spice one, which is some of the most abhorrent lyrics you will ever hear, but I love it. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's, that there isn't a discussion to be had about what those lyrics mean for a culture.
Bryce E. said, forgot to say the events of episode 4 are supposed to happen in Pittsburgh, not Kansas City. You face off against a brutal gang of raiders, not militia guys. Those are all new characters.
Yeah, they were like somebody in the comments of the video mentioned, they said, look, they skipped my favorite part of the show. So
yeah, I mean, you can't really depict a cross-country trip in just 10 episodes when you already donated one to the gay community.
I wonder if it'll be worse if there's like every 3 episodes there's like some side quest episode that just completely derails the story. You can do that when a show is 22 episodes long. You have a couple of you know what bottle episodes are? In television, a bottle episode is like, okay, so you film a bunch of episodes in a row, right? And your budget's running low. Your budget's for the episodes running low, so you have to film everything like in the same place or the same like on set. You can't afford to go off site, so it's like you see like a whole episode takes place right in that one room.
What if you're stranded somewhere for a whole episode?
There's a really great episode of House called One Day, One Room, where it's basically him and the girl. It's the abortion episode, actually. True. And 90% of the episode takes place right in that exam room where they're discussing the morality of abortion. And that's one of their, like, it's funny too, because that's, if you ever want to watch, like, read toxic comment sections, holy crap, the reviews on that are great.
Really?
They're so they're so hyperbolic on both
What
ends.
year was that made?
2008. It would have been about.
And what year are the comments from?
They go all the way back.
Okay.
They go all the way back. And there's like, some of them think it's the worst thing ever. Some of them think it's like, wow, it's so nuanced and so detailed. Yeah, that was Catherine Winnick, star of Vikings, in that episode. That's an amazing episode. It's funny too, because as I get older, his argument holds less weight now.
What do you mean?
What was his argument?
At the end of the day, he says he goes, yes, she's in the episode, she's a victim of R word. And the idea is that she's pro-life in the beginning of the episode, and she decides to have the abortion at the end of the episode. And his argument is like, don't quote bumper stickers at me. And his argument is basically like, there's a nice clean line, birth. So his argument's like that it's not a baby in the womb, that it's a baby once it's born, right? And he goes, yes, it's a life.
His character makes this argument throughout the series.
Throughout the series. And that argument makes a lot less sense to me now as I've gotten older and have been obviously privy to more nuanced discussions about this and moral arguments about it. But it certainly changed my perspective. At the time, it made more sense. Now it definitely doesn't. But the show was still fairly, she was still presented as like a traumatized character who had full beliefs of her own, right? She wasn't he says stop quoting bumper stickers, but she wasn't portrayed one-dimensionally.
Yeah.
So.
X said, who here was a nightmare 7th grader? Gimme faith. I'm confused.
Do you have a nightmare 7th grader? Is that what you're saying? Are you a parent of a middle school child who is the worst right now?
Very confused.
When I was,
What were you like in 7th grade?
I don't know. I was nothing like I am now. I think I was more like shy and accommodating.
superhero movies are the best movie. Says if the woman doesn't want kids, she has to use preventative measures. Simple. In the show, she was not given such options. She was
hence being a victim of
she was a victim. So
1,000 Foot Deep End said, clarification, Texas road trip stops are Buc-ee's, out of state trips are Cracker Barrel. Okay. Yeah, I have been to Texas, but only before I could drive.
It's really funny. I have kind of mixed feelings about Texas. The last time I was in Texas was like 2012, like right before I kind of hit bottom and started my journey towards sobriety.
Were you there to skate?
Yes, and it was like it's highlighted by being like not at all out of control, but just very clearly in such a mind state that I couldn't focus on what I was supposed to be there for. It was the first time in my entire life. This is actually going to be interesting. Like I've never told this story before. This was the first time where I was sent somewhere to film like a video part where I just didn't get it done because I was just in such a bad place at the time. I couldn't focus and I couldn't accomplish it. Like I've never actually kind of put as much thought as I should into like just how much like it wasn't what triggered me getting like that, but it was definitely like a wake up call to me, like just how much had happened.
Yeah.
So
1,000 Foot Deep End said, if Mary inhales helium for episode 300, Brett inhales sulfur hexafluoride, makes your voice deeper, LOL.
Damn, I might do that anyways. Like I might like
that sounds a little dangerous.
How can I do that without dying?
We should know what chemicals we are inhaling.
Like I might have to do that just to make the show more enjoyable for you guys. Let's do a couple more and let's do the last topics and we'll do the rest at the end.
All right. Wayward Soul said, me watching the new Matrix. I guess the Wachowski bros have a sister or something who wrote this.
Dude.
My wife. Oh, honey.
The funny thing is Jonathan Groff, who was in Knock at the Cabin, which we just went and saw review up on the website. I was trying to think of where I'd seen him from. He's in Matrix, the new Matrix movie, which is so bad I've blocked it out of my mind almost entirely. The only thing I remember is the awful scene at the end where him and Trinity are like in the air. But the movie's, it's so bad. Such a waste of so many good actors.
Should I watch it just to cringe at it?
No, it's here's the thing. It's not even bad in a way that's fun. Like it's actually trying and just failing. So it's not fun. Let's read one more and then we'll go on.
Jon Stewart said, sadly, I'm not that Jon Stewart, but I'd happily come on the show. Winky face.
Like, what's Jon Stewart doing these days? Like, he's kind of an activist.
Listening to Pop Culture Crisis. I don't know.
He's out there listening to us right now.
Do we care about the other one?
No. Or he could be talking about Jon Stewart Green Lantern. That would be even cooler. So, all right, we're moving on, guys. We got a little fun one at the end here. Did you know that have you ever heard the theory that in evolutionary in the terms of evolution, women don't need to be funny? Like they don't need to be funny, right? Like would you agree?
Yeah, that's fortunate for me.
Well, unfortunately for me, I do not get off the hook, which is why I'm struggling, right? But Selma Hayek says that she was not allowed to be funny in the 90s. I'm guessing because, when you're in Dusk Till Dawn and you're smoking hot, you don't need to be funny.
This is such a humble brag.
It's such a humble brag.
It was so hard to be smoking hot and sexy in the 90s because I wasn't allowed to be comedic,
Oh my goodness, to be just the babe that I was.
It's just like Sarah Michelle Gellar being like, it's really hard to look so young in my late 30s that I can't play mother roles. Like, it's so hard.
I'm telling you, dude. It says the 56-year-old Magic Mike The Last Dance. She's going to be... Oh, by the way, are we going to be reviewing Magic Mike The Last Dance?
Hey, why not?
Have you seen the other
I'm
ones?
voting no if I have a.
I'm voting no if we're putting it up for a
Yes.
vote. But if you want to,
So she says, my entire life I wanted to do comedy and people wouldn't give me comedies, Hayek explained in an interview with GQ Hype. They said, you're sexy, so you're not allowed to have a sense of humor. Nobody in the history of the world ever actually said that to you, lady. I'm calling BS. They might have said, humor doesn't play well when you're the... Like, nobody wants to be given great comedy by somebody who also makes you look like a disgusting
she
slob
also
in
said,
comparison.
not only are you not allowed to be smart, but you're not allowed to be funny in the 90s. This idea is so astroturfed. Like, it just makes me think of Megan Fox.
Yep.
Talking about how she was treated as a sex symbol in like the early 2000s or
Nobody
whatever.
took me seriously.
Like, now Megan Fox majorly overcompensates by firstly like pretending to be some kind of intellectual heavyweight when she's simply not. I mean, she's moderately smart, but that's fine. Like, you don't have to be a genius and a 10 out of 10. And then she also like LARPs as some kind of like witch with her boyfriend and like acts like she's in high school still.
Yep.
Wasn't
Performing blood rituals.
Wasn't Cameron Diaz sort of a funny, good-looking girl in the 90s? She did a bunch
She
of...
got her start in The Mask, which
Right.
is like with that debut, like it's only like it's hard to go up from there.
I
Guys.
guess
People
what,
really
what
like
Selma
when
Hayek
hot
is
girls are
saying,
funny.
Is Selma Hayek saying, like, I am hotter than any of the hot girls
I think
who were
the
in
idea-
comedy
okay.
movies in the 90s?
Yeah, the idea. I think it might be also because she was exotic, and like they might just not like. I'm seriously, Hollywood's racist, so they might have not have seen it as like they would have only done like racist humor. Like they would have given her like a heavy accent, and they would have done really, really embarrassing
What
jokes.
if she's
that wouldn't
just
have been
not funny? What if she's not good at comedy?
That's,
what if she didn't get any comedy roles because she's not good at them? Did that
Yeah.
occur to
In
her?
the chat, Evan King, I never saw Fools Rush In, but I know what you're talking about. I never saw it.
I mean, think about Jennifer Lawrence. She gained so much popularity in the 2010s because she was like the hot, funny, down-to-earth girl,
Yeah.
right? Like someone with a down-to-earth sense of humor who is like genuine and authentic, and she's attractive.
But when you're that good looking, and Salma Hayek is that good look, she's still that good looking. Like she in the 90s, like you don't like. Have you seen From Dusk Till Dawn? Like you
No, I
don't
haven't.
get to look like. I'm just saying, like when you're a casting director, right? You play on certain stereotypes, right? Like you don't get the only humor that would have worked. I think would have been self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
Like it has to go. Like nobody in the audience wants to be looking at somebody who's that much better looking than them and have them be like when it's a woman. And that's just a double standard of sorts. A guy can be better looking and still be a comedy actor. Can be a good looking guy. Jim Carrey is like not even a traditionally handsome dude. He's just a kind of a
he's handsome.
he's a handsome dude. But it's saying like
Solidly okay
she's
looking.
not. She's not just kind of good looking. She's really good looking. Therefore, I don't think the humor plays the same way. They would have used, in my opinion, that's the logic they would have used, saying like, look, I don't
That's
think we can.
stupid.
I
I
don't-
don't think anyone used this logic with her. I think she's making it up after the fact to make a humble brag.
I just think she
like-
probably wasn't funny.
She just is feeling sorry for herself because she didn't feel like she got to utilize or capitalize on her looks.
She says, I'm at a place in my life where I don't think my sexuality is the only thing that's appreciated anymore. At least she's not saying that it's bad to appreciate her sexuality.
You know
Just
something
one of
else?
the many things people now
Yeah.
appreciate her
Yeah.
about her.
I remember this now.
I'm such a great person.
Her husband owned the auction website
Yes.
that sold
Yep. Balenciaga.
statues of nude children with genitalia for faces.
Ava Longoria is better anyways.
So I don't care about anything this woman has to say, actually.
And I have never seen Ava Longoria in a comedy. I've only ever seen her in A Place Beyond the Pines.
No.
I mean, I feel sad for you that you didn't get to do what you wanted, and then you had a super successful career. Seems like you did okay.
Like, it's like,
There are bigger problems to worry about.
Is
in
there
the
like an
world.
age cutoff where they're like they're all like at like I'm picturing like it's like a Hollywood starting line, right? And as they age, like the countdown starts as to when they can start making these complaints. And like you hit a certain age and it's like beep beep beep, and then you start making all of your complaints like, oh, I was sexualized when I was 21. I can't believe that I was Megan Fox and I was smoking hot, and they were like, we want you in this movie because you're hot. Cry me a river, dick face. What am I supposed to say to that? Like, we get it. Like, it's a visual industry. Your Salma Hayek, you're not being hired to be hilarious. You're being hired to be good looking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you made a ton of money doing that.
I really
It's just
wanted to
like-
be a painter, but I was too good looking for that. No one was okay with it. Like,
Yes.
okay, sorry, your career didn't turn out the way you wanted it to.
Yep.
You still had more opportunities than most people.
People are just very resentful. So, like, these feminist women in Hollywood want all the advantages that men have with none of the drawbacks. And then all of the men want all the advantages that hot women have,
Also,
but none of the drawbacks.
She didn't become not hot. I had this health teacher when I was in high school who would say, she was telling us about how sometimes you'll see girls who go to college and beforehand everyone's like, oh, she's so pretty. And then she comes back and she's gained a bunch of weight and people are like, she's got a great personality. She is so funny.
Yep.
And they're just completely
Move those
shifting.
goalposts.
Like,
Yeah, but Salma
Could you
Hayek
have-
is still, like,
Yep.
extremely attractive.
that's what I mean.
So
Like,
what do you have
maybe
to
she should
worry
have,
about?
maybe she should have just eaten the Haagen-Dazs and like become fat, and then they would have let her play funny roles.
Is Salma
you know?
Hayek or is
true.
it?
If she really wanted to do comedy, she should have committed.
Just
No.
buzz your hair off
Yeah.
and get fat.
Now I want to know: is she the one that's making the remake of Zorro, or is that Catherine Zeta-Jones?
I think it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, but I honestly don't know.
I don't remember if it would be in the in production section. Oh yeah, Desperado.
You know, she kind of looks like Sophia Nygaard. Salma Hayek does.
Yeah. She was in Puss in Boots.
She was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Kitty Softpaws.
Yeah, I liked her.
See,
work
she's
in
like
that.
she's got plenty of she's acting a bunch. This is like the same
She
thing that
missed
happened.
the chance to do comedy in the 90s, and that was her calling.
Who was it that we were talking about the one time that was like, I haven't worked in like all they've done is work. Like I forget who it was now. Some actress who's like, oh my god, my career was like, it's so hard to be a woman
I
in my
remember
40s.
this.
Do you
Who
remember
was
that? Like it's like
it
she's
was
like,
who was in Everything Everywhere All at Once? Wasn't it her?
no, it wasn't Michelle Yeoh. It was like Jennifer
No, it was
Aniston or
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock. She's like, yeah, she was in like, she's like, oh my god, it's so hard. I'm like, I'm looking down her credits and it extends forever.
She has not missed like a year.
No.
Even when she's adopted 2 children.
What
and
is she talking about?
It was
then?
crazy.
She's like, oh my god, it's so hard to get work now. As a woman in
Hollywood
her,
is so
as a
mean
woman
to
who's-
women who are older.
Who are
Meanwhile,
older.
there wasn't even like
she's
she
in
went
a
on-
romantic comedy with Channing Tatum in her like late 40s.
She didn't even go off the radar for like a 5-year period while she had kids or something. Like she was always working. Hollywood always had a place for her. Meanwhile, she is relatable like all the women in Hollywood.
And I feel like I'm being gaslit. I'm like looking at her credits and I'm like, where's the gap? There's no gap here. What the hell are you? It's like Jennifer Lawrence saying that she was the first action hero. Why do you just get to say things that just aren't true? And even
Jennifer Lawrence dropped the relatable act real quick, didn't
Yep.
she?
And even I ran cover for Jennifer Lawrence saying like, look, I think that she was quoted out of context. I think it wasn't a written interview. It was a verbal interview. So I think she just said it like, oh, like they weren't hiring women to play action roles at that time. It felt like something you say in passing, not something that you,
she was an action. in
when
Hunger
she said
Games?
she was the first female action hero.
I know that she was quoted out of context,
Yeah.
but I'm saying the fact that she would even say that
Yeah.
says a lot about her outlook.
I don't
on
understand what
the
context
industry.
would make that better.
But
Yeah.
these women just say things and it's just not, they just lie. And then we're
They
just
just
supposed
say
to
things, and we're supposed to
assume it's true.
believe it.
And now I'm annoyed because Salma Hayek gets to complain, and while she's still really good looking in her, what's she like? How old
She
is
never got ugly to do comedy.
No.
you
She's
know.
56.
So she's 56 years old. She's still really good looking, and I have to hear, "Woe is you! You didn't get to." Well, I didn't get to be a science fiction writer in my 20s.
She's
Sucks to
amazing
be me.
looking.
She is. She's unbelievably good looking for her age. So,
But she's
I'm-
cursed. It's a curse.
And it's like,
Yeah.
is there ever going to not be a market for like women to complain?
Truly,
about,
she is so put upon for being that hot at age 56.
it's so hard to be.
so hard to be
it's
her.
so hard to be her. Look,
Beauty is truly
do you guys
curse
do you guys see
disguised as
yourself
blessing.
in 30 years one day, Mary, being like, it was so hard to be me in my 20s. I didn't get to be a what?
get to be what?
I didn't get to be a serious, like, I had to do this stupid podcast talking about pop culture. I wanted to work for Entertainment Tonight or something. I don't know.
Entertainment Tonight.
Like, I wanted to be a serious pop culture journalist, as if that's a real thing.
She could be if she wanted. You know what I mean? Like somehow I could have gotten
I don't
ugly and
know.
done comedy. I don't really understand what she's saying. For me, it's this entitlement. You had such a career. You got to do all kinds of things, and yet actually you are a victim. You missed out on something. Just be grateful for what you have. You know what I mean?
And the funny thing is, that would, like, draw people back in, and people would be less annoyed with celebrities if they just showed a modicum of grace. Like a little bit of humility.
Some people just can't admit that the world is their oyster.
Like to be in this, be like, look, I would have loved to have done comedic roles in my 20s, but I'm getting that opportunity now, and I love it. Like that's how. Like all it takes is a slight reframing of your annoying, like over the top grievance.
But she's not grateful. She doesn't. She's not appreciative that she has been able to continue her career and do another thing.
Evan
she
King
just feels like she is entitled to something she didn't get when she wanted it, I guess.
Evan King says, I miss Janine Garofalo. I wonder if that's because they were talking about Dogma. Isn't Janine Garofalo like an insane liberal? Like before Hollywood was full of insane activist liberals, there was Janine Garofalo. I could be wrong about that, but yes. All right, Mary, let's get some super chats.
Rhaegar, thank you.
Show me
Just
the
on time.
Show me the money.
Thank you. Rhaegar Targaryen said, why is Harry Styles in the MCU? He was cast as Thanos' brother, Star Fox, and you see him in the end credits of Eternals. I was literally confused.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what they're going to be doing with that. I mean, I don't think they'll end up bringing him back.
They're just poaching anybody.
I don't
for
think
the
they'll end up
MCU
bringing him
now.
back. Yeah.
Fart Party said,
Nice name.
Hannah Claire shows are my favorite shows. Mary, thanks for saving the world that time.
When did you save the world?
Why do
guys
they
are having
keep
a good
saying
time.
that?
Because it's confusing you. They're getting a reaction.
Am I getting gaslit too? X said, I'm not the parent, I'm the exhausted teacher. Oh, a 7th grade teacher.
Okay.
Woo.
fair.
That would be difficult in this day and age, for sure.
That is not going to be easy.
How long have you been a 7th grade teacher for?
What?
Is this new, or are you doing a rotation? Do you get to choose a different grade next year?
A jaded 7th grade teacher. Like, I'm trying to remember what I was like in 7th grade. I was like skating, so like I was focused on literally anything but school at that time. Like I didn't care about school.
I'm just thinking about the absolute state of 7th graders in 2023, and I wouldn't want to be you know? Tony Ty
They're just
said,
like, they're trying to do he's like trying to teach them. They're all doing TikTok dances and like filming videos in their classroom. And the guy's like, I've got no control.
not terribly inaccurate.
And he can't punish them because you can't punish kids anymore.
No. Tony Ty said, shout out to Brett for listening to Spice One.
Yes. Listen to the song Black Market if you want like an idea of like how bad lyrics could be if you it's put it this way, it's the Armie Hammer theme song.
Oh man.
I love it when she calls me Itai, said make it rain, Hannah.
I'll make it
work on
rain,
it.
I'll make it rain, I'll make it rain on these hoes.
I don't know who
I'll
this
make it
Hannah
rain,
is.
I'll make it rain, I'll make it rain on...
KB
My
said,
stalker.
you guys are giving Brett crap. Meanwhile, Mary destroyed yesterday talking about Sam Smith. He left the whole Thanksgiving meal on the table. He ate nothing. Still laughing. What are we giving Brett crap about? I'm confused.
What, like, why? Because I called him...
I thought we said that was like a
Oh, you really, I
solid-
was just shocked that you would say it. Not that it would be said in general. Like, you're just nicer than me.
I mean, I say that stuff. I just say it often.
But not on the show. Yeah, that's why I was a little bit
I tried
taken by surprise.
You only see 1% of these people.
I try to add some contrast to the... Like, if it's
Some
me,
integrity you have, Brett.
like,
Bretticus.
I like to think of it as like, no, it's like there's got to be some contrast here. If we're both dunking on the fact that he looks like an entire ship, like on stage, like it's not the same thing.
So we
like,
have to take turns being toxic.
Like it's like if he looks like an enormous
like rocks, paper,
if he,
scissors
he
in the morning?
literally looked like the enormous red Chinese spy balloon.
Oh, no.
And if like we both point that out,
That
it's
is
just
not an incitement
cruel.
to violence, by the way.
No. I just
Not
it
at
looked
all.
like it's like when I was looking at him, like he could be draped in like a Chinese flag right now, and we wouldn't even know.
X said sulfur hexafluoride is safe, chemically inert. Well, you're a teacher, so we can trust you on that.
Yes.
Where do you get it? How do we get it here?
How
in
do we
time
attain
for
this
Thursday?
subject?
Like, will I be put on a watch list if I look it up online right now?
Mark Reyes said, in 7th grade, I had a science teacher nobody respected. The whole class would throw paper planes and crumpled balls at him when he wasn't looking. There was a rumor that one year the students managed to lock him in a... Wait, what was the rest of that?
In a closet.
In a closet?
If that is true, that's like the greatest story
How
ever.
do you get bullied by children?
It's not right.
Damn. Tony Ty said Salma Hayek was in Adam Sandler's movie Spanglish and failed at funny.
See?
It wasn't the only Adam Sandler movie she was in. So
So,
I don't know what she's talking about.
What if it's that she's not funny? She thinks it's because she was too good looking, and actually every casting director in Hollywood is like, every time she auditioned, it was terrible.
Like I'm telling you right now, like it's the one day we could make a fortune where we just make a site called like Mary's Grievance, but it's Mary in like it's like a general term where like women can come and just have interviews where they complain about stuff in Hollywood. Like all the old actresses will come and tell us stories about how awful their life was, and we'll sell.
I mean, that's just mainstream.
Yeah,
media.
because we need a
So-
specific outlet for more negativity.
Exactly, it'll be just that. Like where it'll be a thing where like once they're getting to that age where they're ready to start complaining about this stuff in particular, it's like the thing to like
I
go
don't
to.
even think they wait until a certain age now. Like they begin very young now.
Yeah, well,
Sydney
that's fair.
Sweeney is complaining and she's like 24.
Megan Fox is like
Megan Fox
31
is complaining at like 30. Yeah.
Yep.
Bobcat said, Hannah Claire, if you need someone for that disaster plan you mentioned on IRL, I'd be happy to help.
What's the disaster plan?
Well, we were talking about like, what do you do if there's a big disaster? And I said, I'm just going to marry some guy who's really skilled, prepper on it, and I'll be fine. And it was a joke.
Oh.
I realized
This
that
is
I
a
have to prep
proposal.
for myself. But good to know.
X said, thank you, Mark Reyes. Fortunately, it's not that bad, but I'm way too forgiving with them. Definitely need to kick some kids out to the office more often.
The office. I remember getting sent to the principal's office.
Were you scared? Did you cry?
No.
I cried
Mrs.
sometimes.
Ryberg. Still remember. Okay, here's an interesting story. When I was
You just doxed your school principal live on air.
Or the teacher that sent him there.
yeah,
Or the teacher,
could have
yeah.
been either. I still remember. I think I doxed my kindergarten teacher yesterday too, or something like
He
that.
keeps going. He's on a rampage.
I remember being in 20 years. Like okay, not 20 years. 10 or 15 years after kindergarten skate, like I went back to the elementary school. There was like a rail to skate there, and I remember like, so I'm like 10 or 15 years older than I was when I was. It would have even longer. It would have been 20 years, and my kindergarten teacher recognized me. She was
That's
still
crazy.
there and recognized
Well,
me.
she must have really cared about you.
It was insane. Like, because
Right?
we went
'Cause
back.
how many kids has she had in the in-between,
Yeah,
right?
like
If you have like
hundreds.
15
And it was
kids
like-
in a class, it actually does add up.
Dude,
which
and
is
it was
sort
on
of
a week, and
crazy.
it was like we were there on a weekend skating, so there's nobody around. She was like, so 20 years later, she's still there, going in on the weekends to like get work done, like the most dedicated.
man.
And she's like, Brett Dasovic. I'm like, oh my god, like
Do
I
you remember her?
I was like, Miss. She's like, it's me, and then she's like, I was like, I didn't recognize her. I was like,
I've had a lot of teachers.
yeah, I was like, but she recognized me. It was freaking crazy,
but that's
dude.
Yeah.
nice. One of the teachers.
Then
in my
then she told me I couldn't skate there. She's like, well, I don't think you should be doing that, but like, just be done by the time I leave.
She's not a regular kindergarten teacher. She's a cool
She
kindergarten
was
teacher.
the cool kindergarten teacher.
One of the teachers in my school district that I graduated high school from, but I didn't go there at this age, I think it was like a third grade teacher, did a time capsule. And then every year, the people who had been in her class and were graduating would come back and open it. And so this is something she did with her students every year, which I find like so sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I love that.
It's good stuff. I don't have any fond memories of later. I was so chill. Like when I started skating, I just checked out of school. Like I got okay. Like I was like one of those kids where I got good enough grades that my dad didn't
yell
like,
at you.
Didn't yell at me. But like I didn't have like really a curfew. Like as long as I didn't come home in a cop car, I was kind of given like, a lot of trust is given if you're
nice.
like, so I would be out till like 3 a.m. skating and get home, go to bed at 4 and wake up at 7 for school. Sign language in the first period, which is not good when you sleep through American Sign Language. You need your eyes open for that one. Like,
How many times did your teacher say that to you? Brett, you need your eyes open to learn sign language.
that was actually one of the weirdest, like that was the first experience I had where like my sign language teacher from high school added me on Facebook years later. And I was
so
like,
funny.
it's no.
Should teachers initiate
No.
for being friends
No.
on Facebook
No,
stage?
absolutely
And
not.
he was the nicest. He was a nice guy, but it's just like it was always like I never interacted with him because it's just like I don't like. This is not the social contract. Like there should be a desk and a half a classroom between us.
Chris
no.
Bertman said, my mom worked in the school district for 20 plus years. She still remembers all the kids she worked with. LOL. That's crazy.
That's
I don't know how that's
adorable.
possible.
Also, hi, Chris Bertman. How are you doing?
Hello. Johnny Beck sent us a thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny Beck.
X said Brett was about to say serial killer for Mary.
Was I?
Yeah, that's going to be my interview down the line. Like, I was not taken seriously as a serial murderer because I was too pretty for the role.
And frankly, it was very frustrating.
It was very insulting and belittling.
No, the thing is, and I got typecast as a woman who poisons men, and that's why I had to start doing killing people brutally, because I don't want to be typecast as a typical female. What am I going to write?
Shatter that glass ceiling.
What am I going to write? A note in lipstick or something? That I am not a cliche, she says, as she pulls out a hunting knife.
X said 6 years teaching. I tell them about TikTok and the CCP.
Good call.
And he said, just wait till your kids are 13, Mary. You'll learn. Learn what?
What will she learn?
I don't have kids, by the way.
You said that you could picture 7th graders today. Maybe he's saying, like, don't worry.
It'll be worse by the time
Maybe.
I hope not.
One more.
X said, I was prepping a study guide for a test this whole time. LOL, please vote for people that will pay me better. I just want a house.
Okay.
So
I
true.
love when the audience like tells us about their lives. Like this
is like therapeutic.
I'm gonna think about this every time. I hope you use our content.
More people should like tell us the details of what they're doing while they watch.
One day this podcast will be just them talking about that and me talking about my teachers.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that guy we learned? He's a goldsmith, I think in Texas, and he was giving us like ideas about how to maximize efficiency by like hiring different things.
I think that was F off.
I don't know who it was, but it was a great time.
Yep, I love it. All right. Hannah Claire, thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Let everyone know where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me. I did this last night. I can't get my handles right for some reason.
So, like, it always felt like on IRL, it was like you would stumble more, like, as you
I don't know what it is. I think I have to simplify my social media. Anyways, you can find me personally on Instagram at hannahclaire.b. You can find me on Twitter at hcbrumolo. You can find at Timcast News on Twitter, and you can find Timcast News on Instagram. If that's your preferred platform, go follow Timcast News immediately.
I have been enjoying seeing the articles and then the memes that are connected to them. It's good.
I'm pretty sure that's all Chris Bertman, and he comes on here sometimes. So if you want to support me and Chris Bertman and all of our other writers, go follow us on those platforms. You can also go to timcast.com and click on the read tab, and you can see all of our work. I'm really grateful for my job, and I appreciate all you guys who come over and support that. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Mary, where can they find you?
You can find pictures of me on Instagram at Mary Archived, and you can send me hate on Twitter. That is also Mary Archived. I'm really excited for episode 300.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a hit, y'all.
I can't wait to hear Helium Voice.
I want it to live up to the hype of episode 200.
We can only hope.
We need it to.
And Surge, we'll have to make sure that Surge lives up to his end of the bargain.
And if you haven't been around since episode 200, go back and watch it. It was a moment. It was a moment in time.
It was a vibe.
Yeah, it was a vibe.
All right, guys, if you would like to follow me, Instagram and Twitter at Brett Dafsvik. Sometimes I have days like yesterday where I literally just I do a weird thing where I just like skate around and like talk to myself into my phone. I do. I narrate and skate and do tricks and talk about like what's going on in my life. Yesterday, I was literally just complaining about the day while doing skating tricks. All that stuff. It's very therapeutic for me, so I put those stuff up on my Instagram stories. So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Brett Dafsvik. For the show, we are here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. If you'd like to listen rather than watch, it's Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. And if you would like to follow us on social media, we are on Twitter at PopCulture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Mary, would you like to read those last?
Sure. I love it when she calls me a tie. Said I don't always dox myself, but when I get really popular when I do.
Perfect. And
or the person you doxed.
Yep.
X said you don't want to know what Corn Pop is doing.
I do not want to know what Corn Pop is doing.
I've never asked.
Nope.
Not
Me
once.
neither. Guys, we'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Later.